You said before public comment. Okay. Do you remember the meeting schedule? Yeah, take it. Oh my, yeah,
Okay, all right, so we'll have to talk about it more. You're right, you're right.
Yeah, I've been committed to second Tuesday.
That's okay, yeah.
For years, so. I can notice that. Where do you get on the bills for approval? Are they not in the packet?
They were late, they were on the latest version. I think I might have forgot to get that to you, but it's on our website.
Sure, that change.
All right, so it's gonna call the meeting to order here at 6:30. If everybody can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you turn your camera on in the hall?
Sure we can.
Thank you.
That was coming through yours. Is that right? Her
Yeah,
voice
ready,
is
Karen?
coming through here. There you
we
go.
go.
That working now? No, that's your
That's mine.
laptop
Yeah.
camera. So, get the, maybe that one? Yeah, that must be it. That's it.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's probably good to leave that open. Okay, and the only problem now is we're not getting the audio feeding back through. So Connie, you can hear it, everything.
Yes, I can hear. If you want to do a mic check,
I think. Yeah, I think the problem is though, is I don't think Connie's voice was coming through that speaker, is that right?
Right.
Okay, well, we have the repair guys coming tomorrow. Are you guys able to hear, or you might have to move up a little bit? In case somebody on Zoom says something. Okay. All right, roll call of board members.
Welcome.
Here,
Buxma, present. Esther, absent. Aaron's,
Here.
Milton.
Yes, here.
all right, set and adjust the meeting agenda. So we have a request to move our fire chief's report up. Right after the conflict of interest. Are there any other changes that we need to make with the agenda? As far as order of items or add anything?
That's fine.
Could we move the air bottles vote up as well? Because I have to start
Yes.
teaching at 7.
Okay. Report plus the air bottle. Okay, all right. What's your
I
question?
just wonder, is the auditor?
Yes,
Okay.
the auditor is on
Mark
Zoom.
Mueller
Yep, I'm here.
or Joe?
Verling.
Joe Verlin.
Yes. Okay. So is everybody agreeable to move up Chief Morgan's report and his request for approval of the air bottles?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll make those changes. Conflict of interest.
Is there a motion so to approve the agenda as amended?
Okay, motion, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as mentioned, moving up Josh Morgan's 2 items.
Second that. Melnick.
All in favor?
I'm
Opposed? All right, passes. Declaration of conflict of interest. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest as it pertains to the agenda tonight? To any of the topics? Okay, no conflicts of interest noted. All right, Josh, you are next. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you for allowing me to move up. I'm in Petoskey teaching at the college tonight. So Just have to do this a couple times this month. So for the month of February, the fire department, we're up 94% year to date. So we ran 19 calls last month, or 20 calls actually. So we're not getting any slower. Those last couple winter snowstorms kind of kicked our butts a little bit with car accidents. That being said, you know, we did have to shut M72 down a couple times in the last month. So we've talked to the MSP and they're doing some extra patrols to try to help slow traffic down on M72. In the sense of training, we've trained every Tuesday in the month. Usually we take a Tuesday off, but we're not doing that anymore. We're hitting it hard, utilizing the Connex box now. Some really great training in there. Kevin and I attended a RIT training, so that's just kind of rapid intervention crew stuff. That had a cadre from teachers from Jacksonville, Florida to Milwaukee. So we brought that back here and worked with our team on that. But other than that, just kind of working still on that budget, getting that done and tidied up. But I don't really have much unless you guys have any questions you have.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
Just as a point of interest, I had a state trooper following me down 72 today, so I did see them.
Yep, they're doing more patrols. They had a speed trap set up last Friday for about 4 hours, maybe longer. So they're doing their part to help slow traffic down there at Cook Road. So
Good. Okay. All right, and then you wanted to move on to your second item,
yep,
which is under new business,
J12
J
or J2, sorry.
J2. Okay. Scott Air Pack bottle purchase request. Go ahead.
Yep. So according to NFPA 1852, our composite cylinders, which are the tanks that we wear on the back in our air packs, they have to be hydrostatic tested every 5 years, and they have a lifespan of 15 years. We currently have 10 bottles that will meet their maximum life expectancy come June. Of those 10 bottles, that represents 30% of our total air capacity in our department. So we are seeking approval for a quote not to exceed $15,000 to purchase those through MES, who is the sole supplier of Scott Air Packs. It's who we purchased all of our air packs through for our grant when we got those on the grant 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Chief Morgan on the air bottle purchase? Okay, go ahead, Tim.
That the clerk issue a purchase order to Municipal Emergency Services in the amount of $15,000 for the purchase of 10 45-minute TC 3CCM-310 SCBA air cylinders with funds to come from the Fire Capital Improvement Fund.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Tim Aaron's, seconded by Randy Milnick. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Josh.
Awesome. Thank you. I will see everybody this week sometime.
Okay. All right, so let's return to our normal agenda. We've got public comment next. So if anybody in the hall has a public comment, can come up to the podium at this time. Okay, nobody is stepping forward here in the hall. How about on Zoom, Randy?
I don't see any hands here.
Okay,
Connie Highmore has her hand up.
all right, go ahead,
Go ahead,
Connie.
Connie.
Hi, Connie Highmore, 6761 Bags Road. Spell my name Hymore. I just have a quick comment. I made this comment at the PC meeting. With the short-term rental ordinance on the docket. I'm wondering if there's some way to do a survey with the public to see how many people want short-term rentals or in what capacity they want short-term rentals. It seems kind of backwards to write an ordinance and then have people not be happy with it and want to change. So I know they've done that down in some of the counties around Ann Arbor, some of the townships, lake properties. Those townships did some survey polls with their residents to see what they were hoping to have in their ordinance. So just a suggestion. Thanks. Have a great meeting.
All right, thank
Thank you.
you. Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay. Moving on from public comment. We do not have a public hearing tonight, so the next thing we have is Joe Verlin from the auditing firm that did the 2023/2024 audit here for the township. And he's gonna review the results for us.
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to present to the board tonight. And we are in receipt of the signed engagement letter for the upcoming audit, and we look forward. I know it's already March. So as we conclude, or at least present last year's audit, we'll swiftly move into planning for next year's audit, and we do look forward to that. I'm going to go through and cover the highlights of the audit report. Certainly, if there's any questions along the way, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to jump into the details and provide answers to any questions board members might have. What matters more than anything else can be found on page 1 of the printed copy of the report. So we were provided a set of financial statements from the township, and we went through and we confirmed the numbers and verified them with the county, state of Michigan, various financial institutions. And once everything checked out, the second paragraph states, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township as of March 31st, 2024. And now I would think of this as being a clean opinion on your financial statements. We can't provide a higher level of an opinion on financial statements. The technical term, according to the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, is an unmodified opinion. But one time I told a client that they were going to get an unmodified opinion, and she was in tears and wanted to know what she needed to do to make sure they never got another one again. So I explained, no, it's actually a clean opinion. This is the highest level of an opinion we can provide on your financial statements. It should always be the township's goal to get a clean opinion on your financial statements, but it certainly means something to achieve it. Essentially, your controls are effectively designed or efficiently operating on a day-to-day basis to make sure that you're able to produce timely and verifiable financial statements as part of the audit process. The next section of the report that I take readers through starts on page 5 of the printed copy. It'd be page 7 if you happen to have the PDF in front of you. This is the first page of management's discussion and analysis, and I would think of this as being the Cliff Note version of the entire audit. Here we get financial highlights. We can see 2-year comparative information later on in the management discussion and analysis, just to give an idea of some of the trends that the township's finances are showing. And then there's narrative explanation indicating why the numbers have changed to the level that they've changed. So just a useful snapshot of how the township did last fiscal year. And that first bullet point, this is very much a theoretical number. Theoretically, if the township sold all of its assets, buildings, equipment, streets, anything that you guys have included on your fixed asset schedule, if you sold all of it and paid all of your liabilities, the township would have $8.8 million left over, and that's referred to as net position. Of course, the township has no intention of doing that. If we back off the infrastructure related items and the non-spendable amounts, anything that's restricted and earmarked, we actually have $1,655,329 of unrestricted net position at March 31st. And that's a much better representation of what the township's liquidity was at March 31st, 2024. The second bullet point down, again, a little bit more practical number here. The total revenues into the township came in at 2.1 million. Total expenses came in at $1,447,202. And there was an increase in net position of $658,050 during the year. In the corporate world, we would call this net income. If a reader of your financial statements asked the question was the township better off financially at March 31st, 2024 compared to March 31st, 2023? The answer is yes, by approximately $658,000. It's always nice to see your revenues are exceeding your expenses, means that the township is operating at a sustainable level. And some of that had to do with one-time revenues. There were some one-time grant revenues collected during the course of the year. Nevertheless, there was still an increase in that position of $658,000. Third bullet point down. Now we're talking about the fund balances of the township. Fund balance, I would think of that as being somewhat synonymous with cash basis. So how much cash, essentially, it's not quite that simple, but how much cash or immediate resources did the township have at the end of the year to cover the day-to-day cost of running the township? You can see total fund balance or general fund balance came in at $1,345,288. And your general fund had a decrease in fund balance of $381,196. And we'll see the reason for that. Essentially, there was a very large transfer out of the general fund into the park fund for a project, which was capitalized as part of the township's fixed assets. But altogether, net cash fund balance did decrease $381,196 in your general fund at year end. Then we will look at the unassigned fund balance. So this might be the second most important item. The opinion is the most important item in this 60-page report. If I had to choose what I thought the second most important item would be, it'd be the unassigned fund balance in your general fund. That's the amount the township has to cover the day-to-day cost of running the township. You can use that for supplies, wages, utilities, things of that nature, $755,940. And if we take that number and divide it by the annual general fund expenditures and transfers out, you've got almost 9 months in reserves, 68.9%. So that's not too much. It's not too little. Most of our townships range anywhere from 50 to 75%. You still have a healthy buffer sitting in your unassigned fund balance. So we might not like to see the decrease in fund balance, but you still had a healthy balance at the end of the year sitting in your general fund's unassigned fund balance. The next section that I
I
take.
have a question on
Oh,
that.
go ahead. Sure.
So I know different CPA firms have different opinions on what a healthy fund balance is. And I suppose for a city, village, charter township and statutory township, it's probably different. But for a township our size, what would be a good target fund balance?
A general rule of thumb for a township your size, I would target 100%. That gives you a full year's worth of reserves. I'm not saying, it doesn't mean that 68.9% is unhealthy. What that would allow you to do, or the township to do, it's a nice healthy buffer. If you've got a large local match, so a grant pops up, grant opportunity, and the township needs to contribute $100,000 of local funds to get $900,000 of state or federal funds, whatever the case might be. It's nice to have some flexibility. And the unassigned fund balance is the most, I guess, the path of least resistance in order to find funds available to cover those types of one-time expenditures. You know, another common expenditure that pops up with townships, road repairs. $755,000 isn't going to last very long when it comes to road repairs, or if you have to replace a fire truck or a piece of equipment or roof repairs. It's nice to have some buffer sitting in your unassigned fund balance. 100% is ideal. Again, we don't want to overtax the residents and have so much cash that it's just unnecessary and the township will never use it. There's no point in doing that. But we don't want to be underfunded either. So I would suggest about 100%.
Thank you.
If you go now to page 8, we get a look at the comparative assets and liabilities for the past 2 years of the township. And the very bottom section, or the very bottom schedule, the very top row, the very last 2 columns, you can see it's always nice to know how are the cash and investments doing. So across all the funds of the township, they all get aggregated together. March 31st, 2023, the township had $3.4 million. And that compares to $3.4 million as of March 31st, 2024. So essentially no change in your total cash during the 12 months ended March 31st, 2024. And then if you look about 5-6 rows down from there, you can see the capital assets being depreciated. That increased from 1.36 million up to 2,010,000, about a $650,000 increase in your fixed assets, meaning that the township used about $650,000 of cash, reinvested it in fixed assets. So despite the fact that your cash and investments didn't change, you did see a healthy increase. You took some of those funds and used it to reinvest in the park project primarily. So a healthy increase in total fixed assets, which will have a long-term benefit for the community. If you look about 4 rows down from there, unearned revenue, $260,409 at March 31st, 2023. The township used some of its ARPA funds with an ending value of $177,756 of unexpended ARPA funds, at least as of March 31st, 2024. And then 2 rows up for the bottom, unrestricted net position increased from 1.25 million up $400,000 to 1.65 million at March 31st, 2024. And then if you go to the very next page, we're going to look at the revenues and expenses for the past 2 years of the township. Just a couple things I wanted to point out here. If you look about halfway down the page, again, the very last 2 columns, you can see $1.6 million of total revenues during fiscal 23 compared to about $2.1 million during fiscal 24. Biggest reason for that being some capital grant funding was received for the park project, a 10% increase in taxable values, and then a fire millage. So all of that blended together led to about a $500,000 increase in total revenues. Similarly, we did see an increase in total expenses. So 4 rows up for the bottom on the very last column, you can see $1.28 million of expenses in fiscal 23 compared to about $1.44 million in fiscal 24. Again, 3 rows up for the bottom in fiscal 24, you can see an increase in net position of $658,000. Healthy increase in net position. And if you go 1 more column to the right, you can see that there was an increase in net position of $322,000 the year before. Back-to-back years, increasing net position, certainly a good sign. And then really the last page that I wanted to point out, if you go to page 19, this statement shows how all of your funds are doing. So the very first column on page 19 shows how your general fund did during the year. The top section shows total revenues. About 2/3 of the way down, you can see total expenditures and then transfers out. And then 3 rows up for the bottom, the general fund hit a $381,196 decrease in total fund balance. So if you look at all the other funds of the township, the fire fund had an increase, park fund increase. You can see the various changes in all the funds, all the other funds. If you go all the way to the very last column, I mentioned there was a small change in total cash. You can also see there was a small change in total fund balance. So total fund balance increased $4,461. So despite the fact the general fund balance decreased, all the other funds essentially pulled up and made up for that decrease in your general funds decrease in fund balance. And essentially your total fund balance is broke even during the course of fiscal 24. So your general fund is doing healthfully. It did decrease, but again, the transfers out is the primary reason for that decrease in fund balance in your general fund. And then you can see that the healthy fund balances, break even or small increase across all the other funds of the township. And those are the highlights that I've got, but I'm certainly happy to take any questions the board might have.
Well, I have one question that kind of sets up for what we're going to do next year as well. What kind of a timeline for our township? Closing our books probably a couple months after March. What's the plan for the audit? Are you here in person and for how long?
Yep, we are in the process of reaching out to all of our March 31st clients right now, just to answer those questions. We try to get everything out to our clients at approximately the same time their fiscal year end ends. So you'll be getting a planning email from us shortly. to get all that stuff laid out. It's really up to our clients. If the township intends to have their books and records closed, we like to leave everything open for at least 60 days, just because standards require receivables to be booked based on activity that happens 2 months after the close of a local unit's year end. So for that reason, I think it does make sense to wait until no earlier than May 31st, ideally. So we can target June in terms of field work. Some of our clients like to have us on site. Other clients don't want us on site. It just depends. It's a matter of preference. So whatever works best for the township. I know we've got staff that are close by, so either way works for us. We're happy to be there if it's more convenient for the township. And then basically, once we finish field work, we do get pretty busy with county audits in June. So we'd probably be looking at a report date of July. Before, in the month of July, we would go final and once, or at least send the draft to the township and then review it, discuss it. And then once everything is, everybody's comfortable, we publish and then typically present in July or August.
So I have another question. And I focus a lot on the notes at the end in audit findings. And there was one that wasn't really surprising to me, but it does, if you're not used to this, it does raise question. When it's concerning internal controls and the lack of within this township. And I know some of it's because of our size. Could you specifically, if you recall what it doesn't identify specifically what lack of internal controls were here? Do you recall?
What page are you on to?
I'm not sure. It's in the notes. I'm not sure what note it is right now. It's just a
So,
it was
yeah,
a
if you,
significant audit finding.
there were a few findings in the report. And I'm not sure which, if you want, I'm happy to go through each one of them. I would say for the most part, the one that we noted, the vendor payments, and this happens routinely with a lot of our smaller townships. They want to get all of their vendors paid timely, so they get the bills in particular with credit cards, or maybe there's a utility and they want to avoid any type of shut off notices or late fees. They'll get the bill sent out before the board has a chance to actually review and approve payment. So the accounting manual tells us to look at that and make sure the governing body is authorizing payment before the checks that actually get put in the mail. So we do recommend that the board actually take a look at the checks, authorize them, then they get placed in the mail. And if there are any known vendors that could charge late fees or threaten to shut off service, the township board can pass a resolution or a motion at the beginning of the year and identify those vendors and say, let's pay these 5 or 10 as soon as the bills come in. But all the other vendors, let's wait until the next board meeting, review the check register, ask questions, and then authorize payment. And then, clerk treasurer can drop the checks in the mail subsequent, after the board meeting. That's typically what we recommend, or that's what we recommend to our clients to kind of mitigate the risk of any types of late notices. Another one that we had talked about the chart of accounts. So the chart of accounts, Michigan Department of Treasury, over the course of about 5 years, published who knows how many different versions of the chart of accounts as they tried to reach a final version of it. And they did do so probably 2-3 years ago. They came up with the final version of the uniform chart of accounts that they want all local units of government to adopt. I don't think it makes any sense for the township to do anything until you are moving into BS&A. And in fact, I don't think BS&A will let you convert into their software until you've demonstrated that your chart of accounts complies with what Michigan Department of Treasury has published. So make sure that you're working with BS&A and you're getting the chart of accounts brought up to code and that it is aligned with the most recent version of the chart of accounts. We've helped our clients routinely. So if BS&A is like, no, this doesn't look quite right, and you guys need some guidance, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you navigate that process. So that was one of the findings. Those were the two compliance issues. A third finding that we had related to material audit adjustments and financial statement preparation. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but what this means is the township gives us a trial balance. And we take that trial balance and we convert it into a 60-page audit report. And because of that, we essentially are helping the township prepare all of its financial statement disclosures, and we're preparing conversion entries, journal entries, things of that nature, so that your financial statements conform with generally accepted accounting principles. Because of the degree of intervention that we are, the degree of assistance that we're providing for the township, it becomes a finding, a material weakness that we publish and bring to the attention of the board. And this is where I was trying to get to. I don't have any statistics, but I would venture to guess that 80% of townships have this as a finding, because the only way to avoid having it as a finding, you'd have to hire a CPA internally and spend a full-time salary, a full-time employee's salary to comply with this, or you can just have your auditors do it. Treasury totally disregards this as a finding. They're not even concerned about it. But we still are required to put it in writing and put it into the audit report. And then the very last finding, I believe there's one more, separation of duties. All right, and this deals with limited staff, limited resources, pretty similar to the finding directly in front of it, where the township doesn't have an accounting department. You don't have a half dozen people that are processing cash receipts. You know, one person opens the mail, a second person enters it into the general ledger, a third person brings it to the bank, a fourth person matches the bank slip to the system generated printout. You've got limited staff, limited resources. And what we recommend doing to kind of mitigate that risk of limited staffing, limited resources, kind of make sure you have as many independent sets of eyes looking at key transactions and have documented independent review. So person A reconciles cash, person B puts their initials on that cash reconciliation, and then it gets filed away. And if you can do it between two different departments, the treasurer's department reconciles cash, the clerk's department reviews and puts their initials on it, indicating the date of the review and acceptance, that's great. If it's the treasurer and the deputy treasurer, the chart of accounts or the uniform accounting manual provides guidance to local units. And you can look and see some of the suggested best practices that they have. But essentially what we're looking for as auditors, what are these key transactions, bank account reconciliations, journal entries, cash deposit slips? Are there two sets of time cards? Are there two sets of initials on those key transactions? And that's really the best way to reduce that risk, is just identifying, hey, what is most prone to error? And these controls aren't necessarily going to catch fraud. They're really just designed to catch honest human errors that get made. So if employee A makes an honest mistake, is employee B going to review and catch it before it gets posted into the general ledger? So that's really what we're getting at with the separation of incompatible duties.
Thank you.
Just have a quick question.
So I got this other quick question. Did you see this email today that came in? So it was related to, there's a page in the audit that shows the Miami Beach sewer project. And we're just kind of wondering why that's still on here, since it was transferred to the residents quite a few years ago.
Yeah, there is some infrastructure related to that hanging out on the books. I might have to look a little bit more closely at that email to better
I did
understand
look
it.
into that. It's an asset is being depreciated. That's mainly why.
So there was some pipe laid, the township paid for that pipe. The township has the rights to that. And I don't recall exactly how much was expended, call it $50,000. It's got a 4-year useful life. So the township is recognizing depreciation expense every year on it. It's just kind of hanging out on the township's books until it gets fully depreciated. And then essentially there'll be nothing left in that fund. There's no activity other than an annual adjusting journal entry that records depreciation expense to show the, I guess, the usage of that infrastructure.
Yeah, I know that it was identified to us that there's a $994 bank balance in that. It's less than the 5%, so it doesn't qualify to be redistributed back to the special assessment parties, but it could be closed into the general fund, is that correct?
I had to take a look, that sounds correct to me, but I have to look up the standards and verify.
Yeah, we'll look at it this year.
Yeah, we can follow.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Randy.
Joe, just a quick question here on the property tax revenue for the township. Is that increase about what you'd expect, or is there anything different from other townships
Mhm.
that you saw?
Most of our townships had an increase anywhere from 2 to 6% is most common, but that doesn't mean that we don't have outliers. When we see a 10% increase, that tells us that there's probably been transition, some turnover, homes have been sold, or maybe there was some, an industrial development. I don't have the exact makeup of the tax roll in front of me, but that's a good sign. I mean, it means that there's homes that have been, properties that have been sold, and the taxable value has been uncapped. Because really, we would expect to see taxable values increasing by no more than inflation. When you see 10% increase in taxable values, it means that homes are being sold, and those taxable values are getting uncapped, and it certainly is beneficial to the township.
Thank you.
Okay. Good. All right, any other questions from the board? Okay, let's,
Joe.
thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to present, and we'll be in touch shortly.
I do have one last thing. Do we need to give him feedback about, he asked the question about whether we would want him on site or not?
They're gonna follow up with us.
They're welcome on site.
Yeah.
We want you.
Yeah, we have a lot of paper records here. Right, Wendy?
Sure. Yep, happy to be there.
Okay, all right. So we already did, thank you, Joe. So we already did the fire report. So next it would be Randy, your PC report.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
For your board, in my experience, typically there's a motion to accept the audit report.
That's right, I missed that. You're right. Hey, would you like to make that?
You know, and include dates and that, and Cambridge and how I'd like to word it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the board accept the March 31, 2024 audit report
Cambridge and Co.
Yeah.
from Gateway Company.
What is the actual year time frame?
April 1, March 31.
Thank you.
All right, motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Clerk Hoeksema. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
I'm gonna say aye.
All right.
Okay, all right, got some lagging eyes. Okay. None opposed. Motion passes to accept the audit report.
Thank you.
All right, now,
What's that, Jeff?
Daryl Nelson, our county commissioner, you are next.
Hello, I'll try to be more exciting than the audit report. No offense to the auditors, they do an important job, but. Couple things I want to talk about. First of all, Grand Traverse County has been asked to put our faith and credit behind a bond for the expansion of the terminal of the Traverse City Airport. Now, I'm on the Traverse City Airport Authority Board, also on the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners, so on both sides of this. So as a part of making the request to the county board, and the county board initially voted 8-1 to do this. We're gonna be looking at it again. That was not a final, that was to look into it and explore it and at least understand it. This week, we're gonna talk more about it. Really quickly, the airport, the new terminal is 20 years old in October. And it was built for 250 to 325,000 passengers. Last year, we were just about 800,000 passengers. And so the terminal expansion is if you go out the airport, go past where you're checked for TSA, there'd be a concourse to the right and then another pod out there with gates for 4 or 5 more gates. There's room for 3 more of those. So the footprint of the airport is not expanding, just the terminal. The $70 million bond is about half of that. The other half is going to be paid for by federal and state monies for that. The $70 million bond would be paid off completely by the airport, completely from revenue, not from any taxes. There's no tax at all that supports, no local tax, I should say, no local tax that supports the airport. So what our bond attorney is recommending is some bond covenants that include a debt service reserve account, which basically, so of the debt service that's due that year, that the airport would maintain a fund of 125% of that amount. So if something catastrophic happens, there's the fund to pay for a year. Just talked about a year out, and here this is a year plus 25%. And no new debt and some other covenants. So we'll be discussing that. The main reason that the airport is wanting to use the bond rating of the county is the county has been very good and a large organization with a very good AA bond rating. It'll save, now that the airport's a smaller organization, doesn't have the debt service out there, it'll save about $18 million over the life of the bond. So it'll make the project, there's more money you put in the project, not into just paying interest. So you hear more about that. The county,
Excuse me,
go ahead.
Does the airport have any debt right now?
The airport does not have any debt right now.
Okay.
There are certain covenants that are being paid off, like where you've got money that's coming in that you're paying off as the project is completed, but it's technically not debt. I wouldn't call it, it's not debt.
Thanks.
So, and ongoing operations, the airport, January, everyone really liked the snow and got the heck out of here. So we had a 32% increase on a record-setting year and a record-setting January of 2024. It was up 32%. One of the things that we're looking at right now is expanding the airport parking area. We have backup plans, and usually at spring break is when that happens. But if there's any proof of the locals are using our airport, we just 2 years ago expanded the airport or the parking. We're looking to expand it again. A lot of people say, why don't you put a parking deck right across from the terminal? That is about the parking, each parking space costs about 10 times as much as surface parking. We are looking at some options for some covered parking, be a premium, but we're just expanding out. We have plenty of capacity right now with overfull lots, and there's a bus that hauls people around, and even an agreement with Costco for parking over there with a bus, but we're looking for more right on site, and we're
Save the trees.
yeah, and there's part of the problem is that some trees might have to come down, and we're trying to avoid that. We all love the beautiful Flatiron Drive Road, great entrance to our community. But we're growing and growing and growing there, and there's no need to expand the footprint. The airplanes you'll notice that are flying in to Traverse City Airport are larger. They're usually 192 passengers. You see those 75 passenger caravans, or you get on, there's like 1 row and 2 on the other side. You don't see those very much anymore. They're now 102, 192 passenger larger airplanes. One of the things you'll notice is, remember we used to hear an airplane take off, it was pretty loud. The technology is changing. The noise is really reducing, and people are worried about we're having to lengthen the runway. There's no plans. We have a runway length right now that the current planes can get from here all over the country and even to Europe with our existing, and that's partly due to some technology changes. But next time you hear an airplane taking off, listen and think how it was 10, 15 years ago. It's drastically different, and you don't really notice that till you kind of pay attention to it. But it used to be a pretty loud thing, so getting better. Any other questions about that? Okay, next thing. Your Grand Traverse County Board, I voted against it. The Grand Traverse County Board gave $400,000 to the Safe Harbor Homeless Shelter with no strings attached over 2 years. Not out of the opioid funds, not out of the marijuana funds, no restrictions, no oversight. Even if the Safe Harbor year-round being open year-round, in other words, being open in the summer, is not approved, that money has still been approved by the board. I did my best to try to stop that. I'm not trying to say that I'm not in support of Safe Harbor. I'm not against homeless people. The idea was they're trying to get rid of people in the Pines. Safe Harbor is open right now, and there are people in the Pines. There have been people in the Pines all winter. I was pushing for a more comprehensive. There's a group called the Community Cares Coalition. It's a homeless organization for homeless that's looking for more sustainable solutions, that each individual comes in and kind of get processed through to help them figure out what is available to help them, not just house them. So what we're finding is that, and people don't like to say this, but just housing them doesn't solve the problem, but it brings more people into the area for the housing. And that's not what we're trying to do. We want to care about the homeless, but when you have a homeless person in front of you, you have 100 homeless people, you've got 100 different stories, and you have to work through those stories. But really what's happening is we're just saying, well, we're going to house them year round. Plus you're still going to have people in the Pines. I don't know how we're going to solve that solution. That's a city issue. But I just didn't see spending $400,000 with no whatever oversight at all, not having a seat at the table of yours and my money. That isn't gonna do anything to reduce the number of homelessness people suffering from that in our community. So I took a lot of flack for that, but as I talk to people, I think they understand it, that there, at the opioid money and the marijuana money, there are significantly more funds available if we can come up with a program that will help. But it's not getting people into a shelter, it's getting people out of that shelter. And I don't mean kicking them out onto the street. I mean getting them into some kind of supportive system that'll get them beyond the situation they're in, so it's not just a turnstile. The last thing, and Supervisor Solzma asked me to speak about this, and that's what's called the Grand Traverse County On-Site Wastewater and Sewage Disposal Regulation. That's the long term for septic tank inspections. History on this is the state of Michigan is working on, we're one of the few states that don't inspect septic systems statewide. The state is working on a law, and you can imagine how, as it's going through, some of the stuff last year was a little more scary than I think it would be this year. But one of the things that we looked at the county, first I was against doing anything with this, way to the state said, but if we come up with our own in our county, we have a 10-year grace period from whatever the state. So if the state were to come up with something in July, started January 1, and we already had something in place, we will be grandfathered in. We don't have to go with what the state says. We have a policy in place. So that's why we decided we should go ahead and look at this, put a committee together. I'm gonna read, well, I'll read the law in a second here, but the meat of it, you know, it's a big thick packet, but it's only going to affect at the sale of a property. And if you're 300 feet or less from an open water source. So it's not all septics in the area. There's a really pretty good record of septic systems, especially away from water, even failing systems, not actually contaminating water and stuff like that. But and it's not going to be they show up at your property and do a spot inspection. It's at the time of a sale, unless you've had one within 36 months prior. So the law, you know, I'm on page 3 of this. It says no premises in Grand Traverse County that contains an OSDS or OWSS system shall be sold, transferred, or conveyed without undergoing an inspection and receiving approval from the department that contains a dwelling located within 300 feet of surface water measured at the closest part of the dwelling to the surface water. I'm gonna leave this packet, and then there's some things. This law is not passed yet. This law is still being worked on. It was first seen by the board here 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. Aspire North was one of the guys who was on the citizens committee that was working on this. He's actually made some suggestions that we're gonna try to incorporate in there. Some pretty good suggestions. He represents real estate agents who are gonna be working with this, a good guy to have on this board. So I'll leave all this with you, and there's some packets in here, a presentation of what they're looking at, some of the numbers. We will have to approve a budget number of probably a little less than 200,000 for that first couple of years, because eventually we want to have the revenue from the inspections covering, it's a revenue neutral thing, but starting out, you've got to get the things up and rolling and then start to pay for itself. So for that first 2 years, it's going to need to be funded by but I'm a believer in the.
So it's a county employee?
Gonna be a county employee
Oh.
through the health department.
Okay.
Through the health department. And then we will, right now, there are not certified inspectors. One of the things that the state was looking at doing is that they had to be a 4-year degree. Environmental science, physical science, 4-year degree. That would mean 83 counties. We were figuring if we had to do it for the way the state was looking at it, we'd have to hire like 8 or 10 here in Grand Traverse County. There aren't that many graduates every year that all 83 counties can be hiring those people. So eventually we want to have a certification process so that septic tank haulers can also be inspected. And they will be certified and monitored by the health department. And private industry can do it, and then there's competition for that money. So
Okay.
I'll leave this
Good. All right.
here for you. Do you have any questions? And so I started talking about it's not law yet. What will happen is there will be, after it comes back, probably a couple more times, then there will be a public hearing scheduled, so people can come in and talk. It'll be the law as it's proposed will be published.
Okay.
And the thought is it'll go into effect January 1st, 2026.
Okay.
Not a big fan of it, but I think it's better than having a state come at us with every septic system in the county.
Any questions from the board?
Just want any idea, it must have come up, how much this is gonna cost the seller?
Yeah, we're bantering around, it's like $300 to $500. That's kind of what they're estimating at this point.
I think lots of the other areas have a lot of Leelanau.
Right.
So
Yeah, surrounding counties
a
already.
lot of Vancouver County has it. Okay.
So,
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you,
Thank
Daryl.
you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Planning Commission report. Randy.
Okay. So in your packet, you have the annual report from the Planning Commission, which was completed recently. And also wanted to mention, of course, the master plan is now final. It was, the last action was February 5th when the Planning Commission approved it. And subsequently, the Township Board left that be the final action on it. That process began in early 2023 and involved really hundreds of hours of efforts, and we're glad to have that behind us. It should be reviewed again in 2030 and updated as necessary. It doesn't have to be a full update, but it has to be reviewed in 5 years. The clarified zoning ordinance is now approved. The effective date was the 26th. In the process of getting copies of the map done. We have signatures on it from the clerk and supervisor. And we're making some 11 by 17s as well as full size 36 by 60 sized prints. A couple other things from the Planning Commission. As you are aware, the deadline for qualifications for a planner was March 4th, and we received 3 of them, and we'll talk about that later. There's a separate agenda item for this, but we're looking at having someone help us with the zoning updates and implementation of the new master plan. This memo, of course, is written before the Planning Commission meeting, but last Wednesday, they They reviewed a special use permit for Williamsburg Animal Hospital, which was involving adding community space behind the vet clinic, and that was approved. Also, they discussed the expansion of AIS facility. There's likely to involve a rezoning and then a future site plan review of expansion of that facility. As requested, the planning commission will be looking at the issue of a new private road ordinance or replace the one that we don't have. And that conversation started at the last meeting. Also, we had Dan Leonard from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation attend our February meeting and talk about the Redevelopment Ready Communities Program and its potential application in Whitewater Township. That was just an introductory kind of conversation. There's more work to be done to find out more about how that can help. The Planning Commission seemed interested in pursuing that more and learning more and potentially enrolling in that program. And that might be another topic for the last bullet item, which is the joint meeting of the Planning Commission and the town board. I think at the last meeting, you asked that they throw out some dates. And they gave us 2 dates, April 3rd and April 10th. Were days that worked for them. So the idea was that hopefully one of those days works for the town board and we can get that meeting scheduled and have a more active dialogue between the planning commission and the town board and talk about many issues we have coming up.
I was just checking to see if we have that on the agenda. I thought I did. Yes, I do. I-7, the dates. We can talk
Okay.
about that a
Oh,
little
okay.
later.
That's
Okay.
later. Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
So can I ask a question? I was surprised to see that there's gonna be a special meeting on the 12th
Yes.
for an amendment to zoning ordinance number 88. And I just wonder, why are we having a special meeting? Is this something that just can't wait to another meeting?
It is, that we want to, and I'm still gathering information about that, so we have a possible amendment to the new zoning ordinance to
But it's
deal with
something
something.
causing it to happen before it can come to another meeting, and the cost of that?
Well, there's the issue of if there's to be a public hearing, we could still get a notice in for the April meeting. What was the primary focus of that?
Oh.
We have to have a 15-day notice for a
Oh,
public hearing, so,
public hearing.
yeah, and so I'm not sure that goes forward or not, but there needs to be some conversation about that.
Right. Next we have Deb, the zoning report.
Hi there. It was a light meeting or a light month for land use permits, but they are coming in almost every day now. So I think I'm on 8 or 10 right now. There's one land division application pending and Dawn's back, but I haven't seen her yet, so I figure next week she should be dug out from
The review.
so, yeah, I don't know when board reviews are gonna be over with the various townships.
End of this week.
Perfect. There's just getting involved with a lot more code enforcement. Several things rising to the top, so. That's pretty much kind of the main thing that I've been working on. I do have a training class this week on Light Be Gone on Wednesday for an hour and a half, and then next week, the 19th and 20th. Essentials of zoning. There's gonna be a meeting. I've signed up for the class. It's 2 hours on Wednesday and Thursday nights from 6 to 8. I'm willing to do it here in the building if there's people that want to attend and watch it with me. I've got the books. They actually even sent me my my certificates for the 2 classes, so. Jill Coster, said she had an interest. Carl Rubel said he had an interest, even though he's been through everything. He thought it might be a good refresher for him, but those are the only 2 people that have signed up so far, but if there are others. I mean, we get, a few people that want to watch it, it's gonna be 2 hours each night, Wednesday and Thursday nights.
And what time is it at again?
6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8 p.m.
Essentials of zoning, it gets into, basically anything that has to do with zoning. It even gets into Open Meetings Act, it gets into ZBA, it's gonna get into planning commission, site plan reviews. Gonna kind of touch on a lot of things. It's a 4-hour class
Okay.
over 2 nights. So, you know, I have a feeling it should be recorded. And so it may be something that people can go back and watch later if they are available for those 2 nights.
Okay.
Normally, when they do that via webinar, they record it.
Yeah.
The ZBA had no appeals, last month. I had a gentleman in today, that I met with earlier today, and he is probably gonna be proposing an appeal probably end of April, end of May. So,
Okay.
it's not gonna be in March. Any questions?
Nope,
All right, thank you.
that's good, thank you. Okay, Mike, you're next.
The recreation and parks.
Yeah.
Fun stuff, always fun. The Rover Pass, our booking company, has been updated for the 2025 camping season. All dates and rates that needed to be changed have been completed. Updates to phone contact numbers, web addresses, anything that required .gov are now current. Changes to the campground rules, which were voted upon, have been updated. The site is now ready to go live April 1st at 8 a.m. There is a couple small things when I went through the site that will need to be changed, but they're very minor at this point. I'm continually taking calls regarding bookings, which is a positive sign. I've taken many from February 1st to March 1st. I've taken 92 calls, and from March 1st till even this morning, I've probably taken about 20 or 25 more calls. I continue to inspect the parks and trails regularly, and we had some high winds earlier this month, and there was several limbs and trees, branches that needed removed from the parks, the trails. The screen door at a ranger station has sustained damage from one of the windstorms that came through, and that'll need replaced prior to the park's opening. Currently, this evening, when I was out for the parks, we've had a lot of snow melting. There's a lot of the trails opening right up in the shady areas. There's still plenty of snow, but we get a couple more really nice days in there. The trails will be nice and opened up for everybody, even though they still are being used with lots of snow in there. I have been in contact with some of the last season employees. I have 5 confirmed returning so far, and I'm anticipating 2 more in the near future. I will need to hire more rangers this year for staffing when August comes around. Actually, 5 of the staff members are leaving for college second week of August, so we may have a little staffing problem, so I want to head that out before we get there. So it may look like the park's heading up on staff more than it should, but I'm gonna need that safety net come August, because we still gotta go through August and September, and then before we shut down in October, so. Any more questions, Director? Any questions?
I just want to make a comment regarding that last comment that Mike made. You know, we have had Chief Morgan just make our crew of firefighters and EMTs aware that we're looking for some people to work there, and I think they could really help you out a lot.
That'd be great.
But then there's also the issue that they're also on call frequently,
Right,
and so
Yeah,
figuring
I'm
out
happy
how to
talk-
balance that and assign them the right things.
Yeah, where I'm gonna run into problems is gonna be on the weekends.
Mhm.
The last 2 years that I was here, we had plenty of students that weren't in college that were able to work on the weekends. We lost 3 of those last year, and then I had the 2 more that I'm expecting to return or are leaving for college this year. So I have 5 college students all leaving in August, and then I have 2 semi-retired staff members that are doing this part-time, a couple hours a week, so we'll
Okay.
need a couple more.
Well, have you thought about putting out some kind of a ad in the Alpharetta News?
I haven't done anything like that at this point. I'm not panicking. A year ago now, we had no employees except for me and no park manager. So I'm confident that we'll be able to fill those positions.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Mike?
Thank you.
All right, good enough, thank you. All right, so. Next up, we have the consent calendar. All right, so I guess the first question I'm gonna ask is, does anybody want to remove an item from the consent calendar for discussion?
For discussion.
And I just want to make sure to make a note of. We did have some correspondence from the public, and that is included in there. And the correspondence regarding the Memorial Day Parade is actually one of the last items on the agenda today. So just make sure everybody noticed that that was on there.
So could I just identify that the items that is listed on the consent that are not part of this meeting? That we make the motion and those get removed. I mean, they're all there as placeholders, but.
Right.
They're not really gonna be an action item because they're not part of this meeting.
Right, there are some items that there is not a report.
So, yeah, so my point is that, item 5, 13, 14, 15, 19, and 20. Won't be part of the motion.
Okay. Did Kay get all that as fast as it went?
No, I.
Oh,
Are you?
it's too late.
Are you pulling items from the consent?
They're just not, well, but not for discussion, they're just.
He's
being
just,
removed- Being
he's,
removed.
I'm not sure if it's really procedure wise. We're not really removing them. He's notating that there is,
There's no
like, for
context.
item 5.
Yeah.
Crack report, there is no report submitted. No.
So when we make the motion, like I'll do now, that the consent calendar as amended be approved and or received.
Less items. Something like
Correct,
that.
less the items that I identified, correct.
Can you tell me those numbers again?
Number 5, 13, 14, 15, 19, and 20.
13 because they're old.
The other minutes we approved at the last meeting for the ZBA and the PRAC and the original planning commission meetings. Actually, number 12 has to go to the PC meetings were approved at the last meeting. Minutes from our.
New ones aren't out yet.
Yeah. But they're not on the website. But it was.
Oh. That just links to the whole category of minutes,
Like,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. Just last week.
Does that make sense? I know that's. Kind of-
I guess I'm not
You
sure
might not
yet.
agree
I'm
with
still
that, but-
figuring that out
Yeah.
because,
February.
it's, yeah, it's a combination of being able to make sure that you look for all the material, but at the same time, technically, we have no authority to approve PC, ZBA minutes, Parks and Recs minutes. They are just informational. And maybe they don't even need to be on here, quite frankly.
That's why I
I'm
added-
not sure.
That's why I added to the receive and file.
Okay.
You know, that's part of
Yeah.
the approval motion. It approves what needs approving and it receives and file the other.
Right.
You're not, the township minutes of 210. Everything's fine with those, they're not involved for any amendments.
Love it.
I thought they looked good.
They were long.
They are,
It was a long meeting.
okay. So,
Okay. You made that motion then, less items as you noted.
Yes.
okay, I'll second that motion. So motion made by Aaron, seconded by Slopsma to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I heard an aye from Wendy. Randy?
Aye.
Okay. No opposed. That motion passes to approve the consent calendar. Unfinished business. We've got the BSNA project status. Just a quick update as far as that project moving forward for our clerk and our treasurers. workflow?
So, met with, actually, her name is Amy from BSNA, via Zoom. We determined that we wanted the first dates that were available, so 4/15 is the date that they are actually gonna remote into our computer, get some data from it real quick, and then try to start the whole process of, upgrading ours. And be done with that. They want to be done by like right after, Memorial Day, so.
I
Then-
saw that.
yeah, so then our, cause it usually takes about that long, she said, so. And it should be pretty painless, for Dawn and Andy and Jill. And that's just the first section of this whole process is, upgrading them to the cloud status instead of the network, so.
So when I see a date of, end of, this is on page 107, when I see remote go live assistance.
Yeah.
For a bunch of acronyms that I don't know what they are. So does that mean that's when you're really going live with the whole system, or is that just a piece of the system?
That's just for the treasurer's office for the tax assessing and.
To upgrade what you're.
Oh, okay, so that's just moving the treasurer and the
Yeah.
assessor to the cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, so then some of the more tough stuff will
The
come
rest to
after
come,
that.
yes.
And are we still looking at approximately 6 months total?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that and I had these false hopes that we were gonna be done with June.
No, that's
Okay,
just the first part.
So that includes all of the data about every parcel in the township is gonna be uploaded
Yep.
onto the
Yeah,
cloud. and-
everybody will have access online and then pay their own tax online. Yeah, it'll be life changing.
So they won't have to come in and give a check, they could pay it online.
right, that'll be an option.
For a convenience fee.
Mhm.
There's a fee to
A
that.
small fee, yeah.
Like $3. I mean, good deal. Okay, well, good. Any questions for Wendy on that?
Forward to it.
Okay,
Jill.
moving on, next we've got, Tim. To talk about, our budget for the next fiscal year.
I think we're talking.
You know,
about-
actually, I'm
Or-
sorry, I skipped over the C2AE upgrade, so there's not a piece of paper in there, this is just a verbal update.
So Linda and I met with C2AE engineers and, well, 2 days, I guess, last week. And it did come out, they were part of their project scope was to provide not only engineering, but an estimated cost of, if they go out for bid, what they anticipate it might come in at. It actually ended up being double what I anticipated, for the 2 loops to upgrade the electrical out at Whitewater Township Park was around $300,000. Now, we haven't gone out for bid, so what we're doing right now is looking at. Do we want to just go out and go out for bid for the entire thing, or with that, maybe have a couple of different bid options, like do part of it this year.
Alternates.
Do part of it next year, so look for some alternates. So Linda has more research that she wants to do, I'm knowing it, and I'm still reading through some things from the information they sent us, and we have a good month before the next meeting. To bring it to the board to see if you would authorize going out for bid and what that might look like.
So, I did think it was insightful and, making a few calls, gonna talk to Mike more about too, is, the whole idea here is that. There've been some concerns over the last couple of years about the power at the park, specifically to the campsites. And so just, one thing that was a little bit of a warning flag to me is I asked the engineering company, did you verify the presence of the problem? Meaning, did you repeat the overload condition? And the answer was no. And so, that's a little bit concerning to me, especially with a price tag that high. I don't doubt that it happened at one point, but I also heard just some side conversations that, some outlets were replaced on pedestals in those first couple of years. And so we just need to make sure that we know what we're doing and we understand, especially if we break it down into pieces, that we address the most problematic sites first and, just get a little bit more information about what problem are we specifically having on a regular basis and how severe is the problem? Like, is it really frequent or? you know, so. Be working with Mike on that as far as information that he had reported back from himself as well as his staff. So,
So I just have a question. Will C2A help prepare the bid package and then evaluate the bids and help
Yes.
us do all
they
that?
did walk us through that whole.
And then they'll-
Yeah,
Yeah.
they manage the sealed bid process for us. and
Okay.
then-
The whole
and then
thing.
Project oversight as well.
In terms of
Completion.
approving pay requests and all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, yeah, but, you know, the big shock is obviously, after what we went through with the boat launch expansion, now it's another, you know, we're approaching $1 million in a few years. So, and this time we have no grant funding to go with it, so just, anyway, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, good point, yeah. Okay, so the next one is, Tim, we're gonna talk to us about the budget process, where we're at, where we're going here.
Well, actually, I think that's later on in the agenda, but I think this is just more to talk about the dates. The budget is.
Yeah, we're not reviewing the budget
Right.
today, it's in here as a reference document,
I
but
wanted it in just as an introduction.
Yeah.
That, all the department had, if you read the memo in the packet, you can see the process that was taken to put the budget together. Meeting with the employees, department heads, board members. And, then looking at, you know, all those things we're contractually obligated to, looking at information and so forth. But, so, and then also a big part of this one is taking the recommendations from the auditor. And incorporating that into this budget, because a lot of those recommendations were not done in the prior year. Both in funds and so forth, combined with other funds. But right now, what we already did set is, you know, the 17th next Monday as the public hearing. For the budget, specifically for the special assessments and village rates. To support the budgets that we're gonna be asking you to approve. And then what we need to do, I anticipate at that meeting, we will probably have the fire department. After the public hearing, we'll probably have the fire department, the Parks and Recreation Fund. Do their presentation of their budget or be available to answer questions the board might have. And then I anticipate that we're gonna need a meeting the following Monday, the 24th. The public hearing, we have set for 6:30 p.m. because it's better for the public to have an evening meeting. But the next few meetings can be like a work session during the day for the board, like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And Jill is not here, and I asked her just for her input on it. What time of the day would be better for her, and 10 o'clock works better for her in the morning. So my thought is kind of maybe what if we did 10 to noon. Kind of shoot for a 10 to noon on the 24th and the 26th. And I think those 2 days, and you know, there's not a lot to go through. Really, I mean, it's when you really get down to it, if you look at it, a lot of it is. I'm going to have me put together a sheet of fixed costs, variable costs. The fixed costs, there's nothing to talk about, right?
right, that's just sustaining operations.
Right.
That's just paying for the lights and the people to show up to it.
So I think that we can get through it, you know, pretty quickly, but. So that was sort of my thought, the 24th and the 26th, and then just kind of schedule the 31st in case we need it. Because the budget will have to be adopted by that date.
So you were thinking on the 24th, it would be the fire fund and the park.
No, the 17th would be the public hearing.
I'm sorry, misspoke, public hearing, and then on the 24th.
We'd start general fund.
Okay,
and
general fund.
General fund and other funds, and then we'll finish up what we don't get done on the 24th, we'll finish up on the 26th.
Okay,
And then the 31st, probably we'll just list it, maybe if needed.
mhm.
And then I would I'm just gonna post them all at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we need a motion to.
So I need,
special-
I'm not gonna be in town that week of the 24th, the whole week,
Yeah, she's not here next week, so you're not gonna be here for either of those meetings.
not the 24th or the 26th,
Well,
although,
we're gonna have to meet that week, though.
okay, so I can,
I suppose we could meet, could you meet on the, well, if you meet on the 20th, she's gonna miss 2 of them too, so.
Yeah, I'm at the Clerks Institute, but I could Zoom, you know, because it's at night.
During the day,
It's
and
at night.
No, the work session,
Oh,
yeah, you can fit in the night one.
Mm.
Lou Bender will not let you.
no.
And Jill's not available that week, or she is?
I think she is.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
So we'll have three, we'll have
Okay,
four.
okay.
Right.
Um,
So do we wanna try and split this up and try and deal with stuff that's
We-
more impactful to Randy? Later the week of the 17th?
Well, we could just do the 24th and 31st and be committed to getting it done on the 31st. I mean, that's. Okay.
living dangerously, living.
Living on
Or
the
we'll
edge.
be here all
Okay,
day.
yeah, we'll be back on the 31st.
That way you.
I mean,
That way you would only miss
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Okay.
Right,
Right,
Good with it.
okay. So do it the 24th and the 31st?
yeah, and then he only misses one, she only misses one, and he'll miss this one.
okay,
So.
that works.
And we could,
Actually, Jill miss.
so previously you talked about some potential incremental approvals as we went through our work sessions.
I'll have them ready for each meeting.
But maybe with Randy not being here, depending on if we feel they're controversial versus not controversial. I think some of these are not very
I
controversial.
think they're not, they're just resolutions that are required, setting
Okay.
wages for the clerk, supervisor, treasurer.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
The
If we
General
have-
Appropriations Act and salaries. So. Or wages, the wage scale.
And the
Okay.
stuff that you have on the changed
And
fees, can be submitted
That
That's
could
next
already-
week.
That could actually be on the first meeting in April, that it doesn't necessarily have to be part of the budget process.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we
I
can
think it'd
do,
be nice to just tidy up all
We
at
can.
once.
You don't have
I
to-
would
I mean, we
rather-
already have it.
Cleaner.
yeah, do you want to do
He
that?
already worked on
Is that, that's a resolution too, isn't it? I think,
I'll have to figure that out. I'm unsure about.
I know it's in the P and P.
It hasn't been changed,
That's what I
so.
was about to say.
Yeah, it was an exhibit in the PNP manual,
Yeah,
which would be easy enough to draw up. It's already done.
Yeah. okay. Okay, so are we agreeing then meetings on the 24th and the 26th? Those are Mondays.
No,
They're both Monday,
21st and 31st.
24th.
Oh, gosh, I wrote 26 right
Well,
here.
he said that first and then.
I know.
So do we need a motion to set a special meeting? Or is it just a notice thing? It's just a notice, it's just a notice.
18 hours.
You just call a special meeting. Okay.
Okay, so we're just,
We're calling.
so it sounds like we have consensus that we will call special meetings for additional budget work after the public hearing on March 17th. And those meetings will be on the March 24th and March 31st. Those are both Mondays, correct?
Correct.
Looking at my calendar. And we're gonna say 10 a.m. Start time.
3/17 is 6:30 PM. Unless you're ready to move forward, I have some clarification.
No, that's fine. Go ahead and clarify. I'm checking
As
my-
I've heard, the 3/17 is a special meeting with a public hearing.
Correct.
Correct.
And then 3/24 and 3/31, I've heard
They're what?
work sessions with that meeting.
There's special meetings.
There's special meetings as well.
We definitely have to take action that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Then I see about resolution.
All right. So we have consensus on that. Everybody understands and is agreeing.
I'm
Right.
not available, but.
You're funny.
Not really. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. We're good with that then. All right, let's see how we can move on to our next item. So, we have an update here on page 147 on our favorite topic of
We go right from the budget into the toilet.
sale of the portable restroom trailer. So, Tim, your item.
Well, this is just. You know, based on the feedback or non-feedback from the board, the last time this was presented, the last meeting, I did follow up with the vendor. And they're willing to list it. They have some new units. This is the one that we bought is a custom unit. And that's typically what they do. And then they also have I think the name of the company, but But they have used units that they sell. And so they're willing to list it and try to sell it for more than what I proposed the last time. The one thing though, in the memo, in that area, does anybody know what page that's on?
Yeah, it's 147.
Okay. So in the memo, the motion. And we had once we received $60,000 and that was a typo, it should be 61,000. So whoever makes the motion, if it is named.
So is this the same thing that you proposed last month? Or
It
did
is,
you tweak
it
a little
is,
bit?
to me, nothing's changed,
Okay,
unless the board. Would like to use it and try it for a year and then see how it goes.
I think my personal feeling is that will devalue the unit. Hang on, would the board like to recognize Mike? I think he has a comment.
If I can, so.
Yep, step up to that.
Yeah. Last meeting when this was brought up, I feel like I was a little bit wishy-washy and the board deserves more of an opinion on it, to be honest. And if it's here, I'll use it, if not. And then I had the opportunity to, sit in the board on it. And then I did see, with the former supervisor, put out for what his plans for. So I just want to, kind of give you a little better opinion coming from me, my thoughts on it. I don't see us making money from it. I think we're a long way from it.
I don't think you are.
And for what it costs, I would much prefer that go back into the budget for things that can help out the park or the township. So I just want to say that even though I understand what the previous board wanted to do with it, the hassles of operating it just because it's there doesn't really, we'll do it, but it's just as easy and costs a lot less money to put in porta potties for now, unless you guys have a plan to make money with that. Just wanted to give you my opinion.
So it's just there, NRT sales, just to identify them in the discussion, but so they would list it, I think it was a total of about $68,000 total, including delivery for the unit. They would list it for 65,000 and we would receive 61,000 in proceeds. Once we receive that, then we would let them know and they would arrange for shipment to a place where it gets cleaned and then for the ultimate purchaser at the purchaser's cost of delivery.
So can I ask you, and I just thought of this on the fly, is there like an agreement? Like we have to agree to like a 90-day period for them to try and sell this? Or is it just an open-ended thing? They try and sell it, but if the horse people suddenly call us and say, hey, yeah, we do want to buy your toilet trailer.
Yeah, we're not committed to keeping it there. If we sell it first, we sell it. We just
Okay.
let them know.
So it's an open-ended
Right,
agreement.
right.
Well, I think I am in favor of proceeding to do this because I would like to echo what Mike said. If I could recapture $60,000 and make a significant improvement to this community versus just having porta potties, which function just fine and are, easier to manage for the park, I would like to recapture my money. I realize I'm losing some of it, but I don't think this was the best use of township funds for the benefit of the people here.
But is anyone thinking of a plan of, the porta potties is a temporary, so are we thinking like in the future that we're gonna have some kind of?
Does it have to be?
I
Pedestrian?
don't know that it's a problem to have porta potties. They're at many DNR sites.
Mhm.
They're at many public parks. I think flush
Wherever I go
toilets,
fishing, they're there.
flush toilets are wonderful, but they bought this porta potty trailer without any of the utilities in place. So not only do I have $60-some thousand tied up, but I owe more money to make it functional.
Yeah.
And I find that offensive when I can have porta potties for $300 a month. Payback on this is well over 20 years. If I did my math right, I get a little accelerated about this. It just seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, so I think. So the motion here is written, a motion, so this was a two-part motion. The motion is that the board declares the portable restroom trailer as surplus. So we need to do that. And authorizes NRT sales LLC to facilitate the resale of the unit with a minimum bid of $65,000. With the township receiving, you said $61,000 of the sales price should it sell,
Unless otherwise.
unless the board agrees to a lower price.
Yeah, if they come in with something less, and the idea of that is, well, I'll wait till someone seconds that, and then we can discuss it.
I'll second that.
Okay, so,
Did you first that thing?
I did, yes.
so the idea was that I personally don't think it's gonna sell for this much. I just, maybe could appreciate it, just like a car. when you
Yeah,
drive along.
It's never been used though, really, has it?
Never been used, but-
That's why you shouldn't use it. You shouldn't make it dirty.
Yeah,
but
right.
Still,
Yeah.
you know,
Like to,
but if it goes a couple months, there may be a tolerance to accept less. And I wanted to word it this way, unless otherwise agreed to by the board, because if an offer is made, I would like to bring that to you. For your consideration. So. That's all I have on that.
Any other questions that anybody has or any further thoughts? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is. Checking this is. High Prairie Park bleacher replacement. So this is a follow-up to last month. We met and discussed the Parks and Recs requests to send this out for bids. You know, they had actually requested sealed bids, and as we reviewed the township policies and procedures, the way this project was configured, it does not require sealed bids. And we went over this with Gary Bukowski. And then you want to give your update on it further to that, Wendy?
So I signed up with Sourcewell. It's a government entity that helps municipalities get services or goods. And usually they're contractors that are already been approved through government channels and don't really need sealed bids that way. I also just kind of did research of my own on bleachers and found that the parks around us do not have cement underneath the bleachers as the Park and Rec Committee asked for. That maintenance is not as easy to be done with cement under them, that kind of thing, the liability of people getting hurt, so. They actually have tip and fold bleachers, which are bleachers that are movable to be mowed under. And so I just put together 4 different proposals from different sources. You could fit, we could get bleachers for people 40. Seat 30-40 people for $1,300 instead of the $45,000 they were asking for cement with bleachers. So a little bit different than what they're asking for, but I feel like we need to put it back to them and say, is this an acceptable option?
And they are, they're used where, other places locally?
So like the Quaid and Milton Township Park has this for their ball fields, and Clearwater Township has all these for their ball fields, that kind of thing, so.
So they sound pretty portable, that they would have to be secured, or they could be.
They
stolen.
log down, no, they're like 300 pounds, they're
Oh.
not easily moved, they're,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it sounded like
No,
one person.
no. No, they're like the normal bleachers that you would find anywhere else,
So what did you do at the last meeting in approving the bleachers with the craft? We allowed them to go out for bid?
No,
We just-
it
they were
was,
asking for our-
it was the responsibility of, that's a thing that the clerk's office usually posts, public notices for bid. And they didn't really need a public notice for the bleachers themselves, because those can be just quoted online by
right,
calling
yeah.
companies. They had really, as we dug into it with Gary, the portion of the project that they were really struggling with was getting excavation and poured concrete paid for. And when you think about having to go pour these relatively small pads at these kind of remotish locations around I can see why that would be a little challenging and possibly unattractive to a contractor to do kind of a piecemeal project like that. It's a little bit small job. A little hard to get
Probably
at.
not necessary, honestly.
Yeah,
Waste of
so,
money.
I was going to look this up in the meeting minutes here really quick, just to double check. Do we wanna, you wanna double check that, or you want me to double check that? We decided at the last
I
meeting.
know we approved something.
We approved, to get.
I think yes, I think that's correct, but it doesn't hurt to check. Unless Kay's got this at her fingertips.
Oh, I am showing it up.
Yeah.
And I was-
Just look it up. Hang on. Yes, yeah, no, it's in our meeting minutes, our township board meeting minutes. Oh, yeah.
210,
Yeah.
Right. These are certain.
Yeah, I'm doing the word.
Yeah.
search.
Yeah, there was no, oh, yes, here it is, board action. Motion to approve and proceed with sending out one bid request for the bleacher equipment and one bid request for concrete work to list the suggested bidders. And put it in the Traverse City Record Eagle and post on the township website.
So
Motion carried.
so that was my question. Did Melissa do all this already?
No, it was
No, we were saying we would help take. it over.
motion to approve and
Yeah.
proceed, because at that time, based on the information provided, we were
Okay.
thinking it was a sealed bid, like a package, $45,000 package.
So nothing's been done.
It's not,
Not like that.
it's not a sealed bid, it's not a package. So I believe the whole requirements have changed quite a bit based on that.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to pull the rug out from people that got the bid packet. So that was.
Right. Yeah, there was no bid packet sent out yet.
I guess my opinion, that was my concern, when I first saw this, I thought they looked kind of. I pictured in my mind, somebody sitting on one end and then they get bounced up when somebody sat on the other. You know, they just didn't
Yeah.
seem, they're movable by two people, sometimes they're on wheels, the ground up there is not even. Maybe, and so it concerned me a little bit until I learned that other baseball parks around here, soccer fields, whatever, are using them. And they seem to be working fine, just like the last agenda item. I'm not all about spending money to spend money, I don't think we need the Cadillac of something. I realize what we have out there right now is deficient in source of embarrassment to a degree. And they're beyond maintaining, so I think even if you're looking at $45,000 compared to trying these for 1,300, it's worth trying.
Yeah.
I mean.
It looks like potentially you can reduce the cost of this project to about 20% of what was asked for. Easily, possibly less. So I would like to make a motion. So we can have further discussion as needed, but I would like to make a motion that we redirect this project back to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to study less expensive bleacher solutions without a concrete component to it.
Keep it simple.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion or questions?
There will be a cost to the removal of the other. I mean, there's gonna be. other-
Yeah, they would still
Okay.
plan that in, but that was very minimal. I think it was less than $1,000. Okay.
I think they were willing to do it themselves. And scrap
Yes.
them.
I say there might be scrap value to the aluminum.
Yeah.
Gotta get it done.
The existing is
Yeah.
steel.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Do we
Right.
need to read that back for you, Kay, or y'all set?
I have it.
Okay, can you read it?
Yes. Ms. Wilson made a motion to redirect the bleacher project to crack, I'll spell that out, if you stated it out, to study lots of nature solutions without concrete component to it. Mr. Aaron seconded the motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Just take.
Yes, I'm just gonna request for a 5-minute bathroom break.
I was just going to the prayer.
Oh, printer, whatever. Okay, 8:09. Yeah,
Maybe transfer, yeah.
It's not you, Randy, but we need to oil this chair or something, because it's creaking at very critical
Let's just swap it.
points. I noticed it at a past meeting and and it's certainly not you at all. It's this chair.
Use the chair.
That's the one I've sat on before too.
But I just, I know it's gonna cause me a problem.
Yeah.
You need me to come help with the, you said they're gonna come early tomorrow?
Yeah, he'll be early.
I mean, if you wake up feeling crap, just.
I feel much better.
Much better.
I do.
What'd you do?
No, I just, as time keeps going on, I'm like, oh, I'm better.
Maybe you're coming over, so you're in class all next week?
Yes.
And where's Dad?
Mount Pleasant.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Are you gonna drive down there or stay down there?
Yeah, well, it's staying there. Because it's like, he was saying like, it's mandatory, you have to be there for 40 hours in that class.
Oh, well, it makes a really long day.
Yeah.
Because it's.
There's like a art ceremony.
This is the boot camp thing?
Yeah.
And is this through like MTA or state?
It's the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks.
This is the one.
Yeah.
Oh, and is it a 2-part thing or just one?
It's actually a 3-year commitment.
Oh,
To be certified. So if you go year 1, you have to come here 2 and year 3. Yeah.
That's the chair.
Yes.
Did you call them tip and mow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or tip and roll.
Tip and roll.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What's
But
that?
they're not.
Put a list and to do, just so that goes with
Yeah.
W40. It really creeps that circle times.
Yeah.
Tip and roll.
Okay.
Thank you. It goes greater than, I got mowed because I was like, because they have you go around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks.
You're saying.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Just to get an idea.
Okay, and now we're ready. So.
I'll be back in office next year.
Yeah.
So early, yeah, so you're. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't hear it constantly. So, and I couldn't remember. I was trying to think what they do. They did.
It evaporates. Yeah, I'll be here, yeah. Yeah, thanks for. It's clear.
Well, and I love where you're. And like he's comes from Chicago, this big, and he's like, I always have to try to remember, you know, living this big. But then I went to the meeting on Thursday, and long night. There was just. I got it, yeah.
Okay, looks like, got everybody to reconvene here.
Since we have 2 people.
Are we allowed to do that?
We can adjust the times.
We can adjust.
We can move them up, but I,
Okay.
to make them wait till.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna reconvene again, 8:14. I've got Kay. So, we'd like to make another adjustment to the agenda to let a couple of our guests, pop in, so they don't have to be delayed a long period here tonight. So we've got, the planning commission appointments. So board, are you in agreement to move our planning commission appointments to the next item here,
Yes.
so we can have them handled?
Yep.
Do I need a motion?
To amend the
Okay.
agenda.
I'm gonna make another motion to amend the agenda to put the planning commission resignation and appointments that was new business
J3.
number 3 and move that right now after the High Freight Park bleacher replacement. Unfinished business number 5.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, so let's move.
Find out where that is.
We move on. Yeah, I will tell you that in a second. Flip over there, so. Okay, so it is on page 172. So the first item you'll see is, it is necessary first to accept the resignation of Planning Commissioner Al Keaton. So I'll make a motion to accept Al Keaton's resignation letter dated February 3rd, 2025 from the Whitewater Township Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
So motion made by Slopsma, seconded by Milnick. Roll call vote on this. Yes or no?
Don't think so.
I don't think
I
so.
know you
Not
know wrong,
represented.
but I don't think so.
Okay,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Hey, do you have another comment you need to make?
And it's just a habit for everyone to get into. I make a motion, I second. Again, with the keyboard and catching up, I don't always place I second that. But more importantly, if there's a time where I'm not present and then I'm preparing the minutes from a recording, I make a motion and I second. It's
Okay.
really difficult.
Kind of hard voices.
So,
Okay.
well, voice is
Sure.
great, but, Slopsma, second. Milnick, I make a motion. If you could say your last name
You
before.
already trained the PC to do this, haven't you?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
training.
He's working on it.
everyone I work with
Good enough.
to do it. It's just so helpful and I
Okay.
know it's a habit, it's hard to do.
All right, so got it.
Thank you.
So the next topic within this is Sadie Merchant. Sadie, if you could please come to the podium. So Sadie has applied to be on the planning commission. And I've noted here in the packet her street address and everything, and I am recommending we appoint Sadie to a partial term replacing Al Keaton on the Whitewater Township Planning Commission. And the period of time for her to serve would be from this point of appointment up until December 31st, 2026. So just over a year and a half. And so Sadie is here and her application is in the packet that you've been able to see. And so she's here to answer any questions anybody has. I spent about a good hour with her talking to her about this. Go ahead, Tim.
Not so much, a question, but just for us and then for anybody that watching over later, just to introduce yourself and, you know, what your interest is in being a commission for Whitewater Township.
I'm Sadie Merchant. I was born and raised in Whitewater Township. I went to Elk Rapids schools. I live on a big cherry and apple farm. And let's see, I married with my husband. I have 4 kids that also go to the school district, so I'm very invested in this community. I have a business here as well, so I work as a nurse. Have a 4-year bachelor's degree through Western Michigan, and then I I work as a nurse, but then I've also opened a farm market called Merlin Lodge in Elk Lake Road, which people that know, live in this community know. So it's really important to me, the agricultural side of it, and I talked to Linda a long time about how I finally feel like I'm at a point in my life where I could do something like this. I know the commitment is big and it's a lot of time, but it's also important to me in the growth of our community and with my children to represent ag, and because that's what I feel like Whitewater Township is it's a huge part of this township, and it needs to be represented. But then I also like looking through the master plan, just like working towards the growth of a community sense and keeping that community close. I feel like that's what our business really strives to do at our market, and so I would like to be a part of that to try to do the best I can to make that happen.
So I appreciate Sadie coming to some recent planning commission meetings here, last 2 or 3 meetings I think you've been at there, and even worked on a beginnings of a ordinance update for us to deal with wineries and or farm markets, and there's a lot of work to be done, and I think your expertise to be very helpful as the planning commission works through those. And as you mentioned, it is a component of the master plan to develop that more fully, so I would support your nomination.
Other questions?
Aaron's will make a motion to. I'll
Okay.
get in the future to make a motion to confirm the recommendation of the supervisor to appoint Sadie Merchant to the Whitewater Township Planning Commission. The term shall end on December 31st, 2026.
And Melnick will second it.
Motion made by Aaron, second by Milnick. I do want a roll call vote on this because this has been a testy subject in the past.
I think we need it on the appointment, not
For the
for the
appointments.
resignation.
Okay,
I'm
thanks
in
for the
agreement.
clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, so roll call when you're ready, Kay.
I am. Milnick,
Yes,
Wolfson,
Yes,
Aaron's,
Yes.
Folksman, yes.
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You do need to take the oath of office with the clerk prior to being eligible to participate and vote on the PC. And then I'll be getting with you about some support materials that you will be given to do your job. And so Wendy, you're here this week, right?
Well, Deputy Clerk can do it as well.
Okay, cool.
Usually any Monday, weekday Monday. I'm sorry, mornings, I said Monday.
Mornings.
Yeah.
So prior to
Mornings.
noon if possible.
It has to be within 10 days of today.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
so just another point of clarification, we have a special meeting Wednesday night, so the oath of office would be given after Wednesday. Then, okay, just so we don't have too many members of the PC.
okay. Correct. Thanks for asking on that.
Oh,
I missed what he said, something is coming over this.
Oh.
So I don't know that we need this in the minutes, but he was referring to, there's a planning commission special meeting tomorrow. And
What Wednesday?
I just need to do it.
I'm on
10 days.
what day am I?
Right, yeah, I just didn't know it
Right.
was something I needed.
Right,
So
So-
you would attend thereafter and get the oath of
Right.
office before that.
right.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
you can get the oath too.
Yeah, but all the paperwork, yeah. All right, I've heard that rumor. Okay, so next we have Dave Bosler is here as well. So welcome, David.
Thank you.
And I've spent some time talking to David as well, over a period of time, actually. He's been expressing interest in the planning commission. So he lives on Elk Lake Trail. And I am recommending that we appoint him for a term through December 31st, 2027. So about 2.5 years. And that's Mike Jacobson has chosen not to re-up his appointment. So he would be replacing Mike, who served on the planning commission quite some time. So Dave is here. His information is in the packet down on page 180. So
Can I ask what the terms are? Are they staggered, like, are some 2-year terms and some are 4?
it's all set up so that 30% of the people, their terms complete per year, so that you never have 6 new people. You're supposed to only change over 30% of the commission, or 33%.
But they're all
every year.
4-year terms.
No, they're 3-year
Three, okay.
terms, but when people like Al Keaton leave early. And when Mike Jacobson leaves late,
Yeah,
so it gets, I have a chart that balances these to make sure that we don't have a year where 50% of the people could peel off. from it. That's the goal.
Got it.
And that's in the general ordinance specifies this setup. Okay,
So just to give you some background, I've lived in the community since 2013. My wife and I purchased the home we have now back then. I recently retired from a pretty long career in finance and business management. And always have had a love for Northern Michigan and the beauty that we have up here. And I'm currently on the board of directors for a private hunting club up here. And I have the time and I would like to contribute to the planning of the community here. I think that we need a balance between, economic and population growth, and there's always that fine line of trying to get that balance. And I think I can contribute to that, so.
okay.
Great.
Questions from the board members?
Have you had an opportunity to look through the master plan and zoning
I
ordinance?
have
and all
years
that?
ago.
Okay.
So I understand it's finalized now.
I have a lot of questions about the hunting club.
Yeah, me too.
After the meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
other questions of anybody else?
No questions.
Parents will make a motion to confirm the recommendation of the supervisor appointing David Whistler to the Whitewater Township Planning Commission for the term to expire December 31, 2027.
And Slopesima will second that. So motion made and seconded. Roll call vote. I'm gonna look over here.
Lobsama,
Yes,
Milnick,
Yes,
Folksma, yes, Aaron's.
Yes.
all right.
And could somebody provide me with the spelling of Mr. Bessler's name? Bessler also.
It's Boesler,
Thank you.
And pronunciation?
Boesler.
Osler.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, David, and same goes for you as far as oath of office warnings. Must be done within 10 days.
And is it Dave or David?
David.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you. So now I gotta get back to where I was. I believe we're to the planning consultant update. Randy?
so you recall that at the prior meeting, we had an RFQ that was prepared and in your packet that was subsequently sent to several firms. Those firms listed on the Michigan Association of Planning's website. The responses were due last week and we received 3 of them. Some firms said they were not available and others, and we have 3. So we discussed this briefly at the planning commission meeting last week, and I told them that the board would be discussing this on how to move forward. We generally describe the work that needs to be done, and they haven't seen the actual submissions yet. But we need a process to go forward to review what's been submitted. And I would suggest that we have an informal committee of myself, maybe another board member, we Keith DeYoung from the Planning Commission and Deb Graber to look at what we've received and make some determination as a recommendation, potentially have an interview with a phone interview or Zoom interview with the leading candidate firm and go from there. So
I think that's a good idea.
I'm happy with the responses, the 3 firms that we have. They're all very qualified.
My only comment is I'm not, I have a lot of faith in Deb and Keith and you. I'm not sure that we need to have a secondary board member. I just think that I would hate to slow you down, would be my biggest worry at this point with everything that's going on with the budget, the park opening, and probably 5 other things that I'm
Okay.
unaware of. I'm just a little concerned about just the load on everybody right now.
with the budget and everything else going on as well. That's fine. I guess we just
Yeah,
wanted to make this open and,
but I just think with your experience and I just think, I don't know, unless Deb, do you have any other comment relative?
I'm fine with that.
All right, what about the rest of you?
My only other thought was we're gonna have 2 more meetings this month, and if we're gonna go to the. Call it trouble, but to interviewing somebody that I don't know why it couldn't be part of the special meeting to do it with the whole board. Instead of just picking one, but then you said what you said, and I'm fine with that too. But that's what I've seen this township do in the past when we interview people, they do it as a whole board, because there's only 5 board members.
as a firm, I mean, interviewing a firm or an individual.
Well, that's been an individual that can
Okay.
be a firm as well, but I'm comfortable. I mean, we pointed you to the planning commission, and this is kind of in that area, so I agree with Lynn. I'm comfortable with
Okay.
whatever recommendation you guys have.
I have just one other question about the plan for this person. Prior to you being elected, and we had you on contract to specifically work on the zoning ordinance consolidation and on the master plan, and those were really specific and very, intense amounts of work every single month, incremental work. What is your vision of this new person as far as what their focal point might be?
Well, when we did the RFQ, the request for qualifications, we provided them a list of the issues that we thought are flowing from the master plan and our discussion about the zoning ordinance. We have a dozen or more main issues that we need to address to get the zoning ordinance better aligned with the master plan. So our hope was to have conversations with the new consultant and have them look at those issues and give us a scope of work and a budget that we can tackle several of those at one time, which is why we did a request for qualifications rather than a proposal, because we don't really know what the costs are to go through and update our PUD ordinances, which is pretty key, and as well as a whole list of other zoning deficiencies that we have.
Well, let me ask one other question, because we hired Gordy Frazier to be an engineering support person for
Right.
Special use permits, site plan reviews, but we also talked about them helping us with the private road ordinance. So how, are you envisioning, and I'm sorry, I didn't reread your whole thing from last month again to remember all those details, but are you envisioning that this planner would attend each planning commission meeting as a
Well,
support person like you did?
I think it will be to minimize costs. One of the conversation points we should have has to do with their ability to work with us through Zoom remotely,
Oh, Yep.
so that there's one local firm, but 2 others who are not so local.
okay.
And so there's the expectation that they would be able to provide material to us and to minimize costs. There's an opportunity to get access to a lot of talent, planning talent, I think, if we use Zoom.
Okay,
And that should be one of the questions we discussed with the interview as well.
okay,
I think we even mentioned it in the RFQ that there would
Okay.
be that possibility.
all right. Well, I think that, and this doesn't have anything to do with choosing a company to provide this support, but I know that your guidance on the planning commission for the last couple years was just invaluable at getting them to get through the material and being able to explain things to people. Because, it's just hard to, we've got 2 new members coming on, and it's just a lot for a planning commissioner, I think, to get to the point of having that knowledge base
It
and
is.
comfort.
And the hope is that the planning consultant will be able to produce documents, a draft rewritten PUD ordinance, for example, give
Right.
us, red line versions of it, strike through, give us their experience and knowledge of
Right.
what works best elsewhere and be able to,
That short circuits the process.
right, and not have,
Right.
the most efficient way of moving it forward.
Well, even stuff like that big debate about farm markets and farm stands and farm this and farm that and getting that all cleaned up.
Right.
Right.
Question.
Go ahead.
So, could you though, to all the board members, send the information from the three applicants?
Sure.
Just so if we have questions, we can answer them in advance.
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
And then the other thing that sometimes, I mean, in a way, hearing this for the last couple of meetings, it sounds like it. I understand the engineering on the Gordon Fraser is specific to an application. That's when we're gonna use them. This planning one seems more, I just don't want it to be so open-ended that they have an unlimited budget. That
No, no.
I can walk in and say, hey, you need this and this and this, but it's gonna be very directed about what they're gonna be working on and
Yeah, I think we want a scope of services and a budget to do a certain number of things. We're just looking for the most qualified firm right now to help us with that.
So right now, you're just trying to narrow down who you want to work with.
Right, right.
Okay.
And then we will come up with a scope and a budget that, and then sign a contract on that. And that might be, there might be 2 phases, 3 phases, you know, I don't know exactly how. We'll see where the numbers come and how we can move forward. And no one's interested in spending a ton of money on
Mhm.
meetings that aren't going anywhere. We need material to work from and comment on.
and you'll bring back to us a contract for approval.
Yes,
or something.
yeah, we have our standard contract, or they may have one, or we can, well,
Okay. So I believe we have consensus on the plan that Randy will go ahead and work with Keith DeYoung and Deb Graber on this to evaluate the information provided. Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is joint township board planning commission meeting dates. You guys.
Well, we had a joint PC. thing first.
Yeah, so,
I think we're on
so,
7.
yeah, number 7. So township board PC meeting, we had talked about meeting in April, and I think you verbally gave us some dates during your report on the planning commission.
I did. I forget what dates.
You said the 3rd and the 10th.
Yeah, they're Thursdays, I think. Is that right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So April 3rd and April 10th, and this would be an evening meeting.
Yes. So I think that, pardon me?
Still have your normal PC meeting,
On Wednesday.
Yes. We didn't, yeah.
so is it better to do it back to back? Or 1 week?
I don't know, those were the days that the planning commission threw out there. We said we were just trying to short circuit the process here as quick as we could to get,
You guys need a 7.
right.
I guess I would prefer to do this on the 10th. Just kind of looking at the calendar and
Both days are fine.
go.
Tenth.
Want to do the 10th?
What's the off week for the planning commission?
That is,
That is an off
So,
week.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
meet on April 2.
yeah.
Oh, okay, that would be, I think better for them. 2 weeks in a row would be a lot.
Okay. All right, we want to do that.
We could ask
So
Denise to
that's-
do- Okay,
All right, so this is April 10th, so we need a special meeting notice for that. And who's responsible for the agenda? Is that Randy and
I
I?
think,
Separate.
Oh, like, explain.
I forget how that
Third
worked.
general
Tell me.
comment.
We just happen to be meeting together.
Wait, no, wait.
I've seen it done too.
I think At the city, the city commission was the higher board and it always actually did the, I don't think we ever had a separate planning
I
commission.
can give you feedback on what I have experienced with joint meetings, joint municipal meetings. There's one agenda. However, each municipality does their own roll call.
That's
And adjournments and motions, if there are any actions made,
Mhm.
but I have not seen it ever with 2 separate agendas. But they do each act independently on those particular aspects.
But you're the recording secretary for both. So
And
can
it's
there be
one set of minutes.
Okay,
Yet each municipality approves it.
okay.
their meetings. They each approve it. Versus just one entity.
So my question still remains, who develops the agenda, the order of discussion topics? Is that you and I, Randy, or is that
The largest
Maybe you and
ones
Keith.
me and Keith?
Yeah.
large-
Okay.
the
I think we know what the
township.
topics are, but
Well, I had written down short-term rental, civil infractions, 6-year capital improvement plan, which might be a shock to a lot of people. Private road
Yeah.
ordinance. Did I get it?
That's-
Is that enough?
that's plenty.
And somebody will go take a left turn and they'll add something else ad hoc, probably.
Yeah, I just read today that the 6-year capital improvement was required by the Michigan Planning and Planning Act, so.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, all right,
Secretary.
April 10th. Any other
Oh.
comments on this joint meeting before we move on?
7 o'clock.
Sure,
With that,
is everybody
or
okay?
6:30, right, whatever.
7 o'clock for a meeting start time?
No, but yeah.
Trying to do it earlier.
Is it 7?
7, yeah. Okay. All right, we're done with that. The next agenda item is zoning administrator salary. So this is in your packet on page 157. It's kind of a long story that hopefully you've all read. So there was action by the prior board starting in May of last year to adjust the work scope of our zoning administrator. The motion to make those changes was approved. There was a subsequent motion that was not part of the first motion that was going to authorize a pay adjustment as a result of the scope of work change. That roll call vote did not pass. And then there was the job description to the zoning administrator was then updated per the first motion that passed in August. So that took from May till August to update that. And that is attached to your information. So we have a situation here where we have an employee that agreed to work for us for a given price and a given work scope. Their work scope was increased, but their pay was not adjusted. And so I am bringing this to this board. And Slopesima is making a motion that the board authorize a 10% pay increase to the base salary of $45,000 to the zoning administrator for the additional duties assigned by the board at the May 8th, 2024 meeting. The new base salary for the zoning administrator will be $49,500.
Like to make a friendly amendment to the motion.
Okay,
With the increase to be effective with the next full pay period.
Actually,
Do I need a second first?
I think you can discuss it and you can amend your
okay,
motion. Since there's no second that's happened yet.
She can just add, she can add to it, but
Exactly,
yeah, I would just recommend.
So-
you add that.
other discussion?
but I was thinking about that and I didn't quite catch what that discussion was, so I'll need you to.
Okay, I will. Okay, Randy?
Mel Nichols second the motion.
Can you specify?
Okay, all right, so let me just, okay, so I'm just gonna to do the motion again. Motion that the board authorizes a 10% pay increase to the base salary of $45,000 to the zoning administrator for the additional duties assigned by the board at the May 8th, 2024 meeting. The new base salary for the zoning administrator will be $49,500 and it will be effective with our next regular pay period.
Is that the additional thing?
Yes,
Yeah, can't go back.
no,
We're gonna start tomorrow.
Okay.
Is Randy still second?
Yes, Mel Nichols
Okay,
second.
good.
till next time. Any other comments or discussion? I would like to say this is righting a terrible wrong. This is very inappropriate. And it needs to be fixed.
Oh, we'll see what you'll do.
Like this gavel thing over there.
just for sport.
Yeah. Any other comments from anybody? I would add that Deb has been doing this work continuously since last May. Okay. Roll call vote when ready.
Ready. Folksma, yes. Aaron's,
Yes.
Folksma,
Yes,
Miller.
Yes,
thank you.
And can I just ask one question on the job description? I didn't know whether to ask before. I didn't understand number 5. It says independent contractor agreement language is referenced, and I don't know why that's in the job description. And I thought
You
that
said it's number 5,
was number 5 in the job description.
that says maintain. So
Under general description, it says independent contractor agreements must be acknowledged. Must acknowledge this job description in the township's code enforcement policy and procedure.
I guess that's in contractors that we have out there, need to recognize that she has this. ability. Right?
That's all I asked, I didn't know.
So it could be, it also could be that this is kind of a form that could be used for either an independent contractor or a direct employee. And Deb is a direct employee.
Oh, okay. That's possible.
I think that was the source of that.
According with both,
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. Moving on, next item, town hall printer scanner. So there's quite a bit of information in the packet regarding this. Our printer scanner is coming to the end of its lease period at the end of April. So some various folks worked on some possibilities for replacement. Jill Hester provided a note indicating her support of the purchasing an HP color laser jet printer for $800. I was not personally involved in this, so I'm gonna defer to the people that were to have any other comments that the board should be aware of regarding the replacement of our current printer scanner.
I'll just say that I put the spreadsheet analysis together and Wendy and Joe and I worked on it and had all the vendors come in and meet with them. Well, the one laser printer accounts, there was nothing really to present. Here's the printer and it's $800, so but the other two did meet with us. So we looked at the option to lease versus buy. And they all did offer a purchase option, but hands down, when you look at the spreadsheet, even if it's wrong, it's worth trying this. The cost, 5-year cost of the lease was in the 30,000+ range. And if this printer that we buy for $800 lasts 5 years, look at how much money we've saved, so.
I think the other thing is, we should be printing less now, right? That's
Well,
because we're not printing tax bills twice a year, right?
right.
That's a lot of paper.
Well, it's not necessarily costing us less in that regard, because it does cost a little bit more money farming out, but it's not.
But the
it's not
point is, there won't
taxpayers.
be taxing the machine, and I would tell you, my experience with this machine is we need to get rid of it. It's not of good quality.
And the other thing that really, I think some people will find a benefit, the people that have used that machine, this one is 59 pages per minute.
Right,
The one we currently have is 25.
right, it's slow.
So
Yeah.
so what's the other cost here? The toner delivered and annual maintenance, 200, so that's,
we're gonna have another couple $100 for the tray and it's the stand with the trays in it to keep
Okay.
it at, desk type, height like it is right now.
okay,
And then you do have to with this, go and buy your toner, stack your toner as it,
okay.
can tell you when you're getting close, and then they deliver same day.
So then the annual maintenance, we pay $200 a month for a
They just
maintenance
have,
contract?
No contract. They just come and clean it, just make sure it's shape kind of thing. They recommend that you have it cleaned once or twice a year, right? So
Yeah, I think
that's
that
just, that's just a
$60.
service. It's a
Yeah.
service call, it's not a contract.
So there's not another $200 a month on top of that?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's a year.
Oh, a year, okay. Oh, okay,
That's just a clean.
I saw.
I tend to agree. I think this is worth a shot. I don't know for sure whether the former newsletters were being printed on this printer or if they were farmed out from, according to Deb, yes, they were printed here. I mean, like, we're not doing those things.
Yeah,
I have no intention of publishing this.
there's a bowling machine back there and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna have, I don't think it's gonna require the maintenance nor, you know. I think I would also just say that I have been the owner of multiple HP laser printers and I don't, all I do is change the toner, that's it. And I move on.
And the only thing that wasn't mentioned, I mean, the price might seem low, this is a reconstructed. Certain companies have, they only keep some, according to what Jill told me, they only keep some of these printers, some of those big.
Oh,
GM
it's
companies.
off lease kind of thing.
Yeah, as soon as they come off lease, then they kind of
Then they
rebuild
sell
them
it.
and then they sell them.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. So it's
Oh,
not right.
Okay.
To see this part, so I am more agreeable now.
Okay, so
Okay,
are
good
we ready to make a decision here, guys?
There's nothing to vote on because it's within your spending authority.
Oh, okay.
It's already been done.
Well, Does
Oh,
everybody,
okay,
does everybody support this? Well, I knew it was, but,
Yeah.
okay, everybody supports this?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wendy and I will sign off.
Or consensus for the purchase of the laser, or the HP,
HP
your laser.
color
printer.
laser printer, yep. We're good to go. All right. We already did the Scott Air Pack bottles. We already did the planning commission appointments. We need to make a fast decision here, or we can defer this to our next meeting. I faultily put together this proposal to switch our meetings. The last couple of months, we've met on Monday nights. That caused a conflict tonight with the Board of Review, which is a statutory requirement in the month of March. We need to decide what day and time we would like to meet. We cannot maintain my proposal here because it's in conflict with Kay's availability to take the notes.
Well, the Board of Review has already did their next year's Monday
You
meeting.
always, I believe, I'd have to check the statutory requirements, but we would have to avoid the second week
Mhm.
of March. I can look up what the requirement is, but it's like,
We could just move that though, right? But I mean,
yeah.
pick the majority of the dates, I suppose, and.
Do you want me to just bring this back later, or do you want to try and decide that real quick?
And I don't, we have enough people here to ask what their opinion would be.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had no problem with Mondays. And. Right, and my thing about Wednesdays is, is that planning?
it is planning commission.
Okay, and that could be, and then I always heard too, like Wednesdays were kind of reserved for church things.
Mhm.
Right,
Right? Like,
And what day did the crack meet?
third years.
No, Tuesdays?
Third Tuesday of the month.
Third Tuesday, okay.
But nothing's on Thursdays.
Which.
Except the TBA at the end of the month.
Right.
Yeah, they're Thursdays, yeah.
So we could, Mondays and Thursdays probably work, right? But I don't know, what's the drawback of Mondays, I don't.
It's a weekend before the agenda and,
I'm just.
you know,
It has me working every weekend before the meeting,
Right.
that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's the bad thing.
So Thursday's better. So could we,
Which Thursdays, Thursdays, which.
second Thursdays, I mean,
so if you did that, it would. You'd already have a PC meeting by then.
well, yeah, but. Yeah, that'd be that'd be a conflict that very first meeting, but we could change.
Just be a joint. I'm just thinking for like approval of other minutes and approval of bills, kind of thing, trying to figure out what's the best day.
I think anything that would make approval of bills better for you, per the audit comments, would be a good idea.
We talked about having,
Well, that would be the beginning or the end of a month.
we talked about having a work session
Mm-hmm.
from like, 10 to noon to do business.
Mhm.
Of just approving bills, approving
that
minutes,
too.
approving minutes kind of thing, whatever, but whatever would go on, yeah, but.
That would also resolve these lengthy meeting problems.
Yeah, so if we did a meeting, a regular meeting the second week of the month, and then the fourth week of the month, we do the business meeting of just running the township. and
That'd be
stuff.
good. Is the second, are you available the second Tuesday or Thursday of the month?
And they, some of these might just be an hour, you know, I mean, it's just whatever comes.
If we see,
Yeah, it's the second Wednesday, so that would be. That'd be 2 meetings in a row, but get them out of the way.
So I don't know that we would have to list it on this resolution 2502. Because they would all be if needed, right, that second meeting of the month. What we're required to is the regular township meeting is the public meeting. That we have at night, right, that we're
Okay.
gonna have at night.
So you're saying we would schedule those during the day meetings for just standard business, we would do that as
Later,
needed
Yeah.
or later,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah, like at every board meeting, we just, when we, you know, at the end, we say next, we do our announcements
Okay.
and say. There'll be a work meeting on whatever. And it could just go up to whatever works for everybody.
So it sounds like we're thinking either second Monday or second Thursday for the evening meeting, is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mhm.
I can do either.
The April one, we would have to do Monday, we already just scheduled the Thursday.
Mhm.
I'm available second Mondays and second Thursdays.
Something just flips
So
on
you
me.
won't have to work that weekend.
Well, in the past, Jill has said Mondays are bad for her.
In the morning, right? Oh, no, the whole day. Oh, these are, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we wanna, what do you wanna do?
Second Thursday.
I'm ready to go with it. I think Monday for April 10 and the rest are Thursday. It's fine with me.
So you're saying Monday, the April meeting
Seventh.
will be on the 7th? And then starting in May, there'll be the second Thursday.
All at 6:30. It's hard to make this too.
Got it.
Okay. Then you can just change all that.
I'm just looking at the calendar really quick to make sure there's not anything stupid that's gonna happen with this. September 11th, it'll be 13th. All right, so November would land on the 13th, which should be fine. December would land on the 11th, which should be fine. Good. January 8th. February 12th. Okay. All right.
I will make a motion.
Hi, it's Aaron's. What does it say?
The rest, Aaron's makes a motion that resolution number 2502 second Grafton Township Board meeting dates for the 25-26 fiscal year be adopted.
And those dates are, right?
It's, as we just modified.
April 7th and then the second
April
Thursday of the month.
7th. Monday.
You want to list them all?
No, just-
No.
you can just say
Okay.
Monday, April 7th, and then
The second Thursday.
May through March would be the second Thursday.
And that's 6:30.
Right.
Yeah. And then that's a resolution, so it needs a roll.
Now we got our second resolution. Got it.
Slow-
Find where to do this.
Slow tomorrow.
Yes.
Milnick,
Yes.
Aaron's.
Yes.
Folksville, yes.
Okay. Just a couple more items. There's information in your packet about the proposal from the Copelands regarding, Mr. C's, property that's for sale over here across M72. So are there any comments regarding, I believe he made this offer valid for 60 days, which is up here very quickly.
Whether
So-
with this being in the packet, what are you looking for from us?
Thoughts?
Just feedback.
All right,
What do you think?
I'm not sure of feedback on this one, but I don't think we can afford it. We're not in a position to borrow based on what happened in last year's audit. This year, due to short-term borrowing until a year from now. And I don't see that building working for this township. It would cost so much money to even get it into condition to be an actual functioning township hall. It was a restaurant. And they do offer a very large kitchen, which I don't know is their biggest priority, but I don't, and two, that location. For people turning left in the summer is a nightmare into that gas station. And, you know, I don't know, here you got the benefit of the light, whatever, and turning out. But so there's just a few things I don't like about it. I'm not saying the price that he offered for us to buy it is I think he's being generous with that, but we have property on Elk Lake Road to build something. Lot right next door to this place is for sale. I think we should be looking at this for what they're asking for it. I realize it's wet in many a lot of it. But we know we need a new township hall. We know we need a new fire hall. And to me, this seems like we would just be. It doesn't seem thoughtful. And I think we need to go through a planning process, an engineering design. What do we really need as a township? Or township office maybe combined with a fire hall. But I really don't even see the benefit of even touring it for me. But I will, so that's my thought.
I have similar thoughts on that too, I guess. I mean, I really, we kind of alluded to the need for a capital improvements plan for the township, and I think that's a conversation that will gain some traction in the next few months. But we don't really know what scenarios are in front of us in terms of alternatives for buildings, and I think it'd be impulsive, I think, to pursue something just because it's available. I think we need to look at the long-term needs of the township, look at different alternative scenarios and build from that. So I'm interested in looking at it if somebody wants to, but I guess I don't. I really think the Planning Act calls for a capital improvements plan. Like most large organizations, you have needs for buildings, facilities, and it needs to play out over many years as opposed to, we're looking at, you put a building up and its useful life is 20 to 50 to 75 years. There are long-term kind of issues with that. So,
Or over 100.
or 100, yeah, and this building has some roots in the community, obviously, so I'm not crazy about discarding it.
Wendy?
I'm up for going for a tour. I feel like this needs to be a museum or something historically preserved. I think we're outgrowing it. I know in the past, I've found lots of information about, plans for new township hall, new fire hall, that kind of thing. I think that is a landmark in our community as well. People all know that area. Or when they go through, and also that it has old 72 and the new 72 access, even good for drive-through for, fire trucks, that kind of thing. I don't know that it could work for us. The financing is the issue as well, but I think Mr. Copeland might be even willing to help with that. So I think it's something we should at least look at.
Okay.
How it can maybe work for us. I'm not sure if it does either, so.
So I think my feedback on this is, I would echo that the timing for this is, it's unfortunate that he was looking for a quicker answer than I think what we're capable of committing to. And with the issues of the prior board and the Treasury Department, it makes us ineligible for a bond at this point. And that's not something that we are at fault for. That came from the previous board. So because that, I am not opposed to going and seeing it. I think one of the biggest redeeming values of this, two things, it gives us nice visibility on M72, but the fact that people could enter and exit off of Old 72 is probably, I haven't walked over there to see what that's like. Hopefully it's not low and wet, but
It's a ditch.
It's a previous, railroad.
is that the
tracks.
railroad track
Yeah.
there? That's the diagonal?
Yeah.
Okay.
You would have to get
Yeah,
permission to get right away.
Right. So anyway, I guess, I'm willing to go look at it though. And I think out of respect for Mr. Copeland, we probably should, to just see if he's got something else that he wants to throw on the table on that.
Yeah.
But I think unfortunately, we don't have the funds, I don't think internally to make that a reality for us without doing something like a bond or a grant. And he needs to appreciate and understand how long that takes.
right. And that would still be a lower cost than,
I think
Yeah.
he's offering this property at a heck of a deal.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
redeeming value. So, okay, so what's the decision here? Are people interested in just having a tour? Put your eyes on.
Yes.
Yes.
Josh would like to be included.
Okay, I am thinking that I can contact Mr. Copeland. What time frame are you guys thinking of making yourself available? This doesn't have to be an all-day thing.
Well, one thing, just so that we're, covering our bases as far as Open Meetings Act, we're gonna have a majority of the board going and touring a building, but we are not conducting township business. However, it could lead to a decision of the board based on the tour. So in effect, I think you do need to post that. And the public should be welcome if they wanted to join the tour.
So we've got some people that are out of town in the next couple weeks. So is this something that you'd like to shoehorn in this week, or is this something that's gonna occur in April?
Only gave us 60 days ago, so.
I know, it's coming up fast.
Maybe he'd be open to a couple tours too, or just
I cannot,
we wouldn't have to be together.
I cannot do that Wednesday, I guess. My phone is like scrolling right now. Oh, Thursday's the board of review again, 9 to 3. I guess I could do something on Friday. That's my first available. You want me to see if the,
Gary, could you please mute your phone, please? Gary,
can't you mute him? You just turn on your speaker.
Sounds like it's a cartoon.
All right, so I guess I could do this coming Friday, but I guess I need to find out if Mr. Copeland's available.
Well,
Okay.
can you just email us when you
Yeah, I will.
pick a couple dates? Jill will be back by then, I think, too.
Oh, she's gone this week.
She'll be
all
back.
week,
I
right?
think it was only a 5-day thing.
She'll be back.
Okay. All right, I'll try and get a hold of Mr. Copeland tomorrow morning. All right, move on. Baseball banner, all right, Amber, your time in the sun is here. Okay, so advertising banner on township property, I believe we've done this for years, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is not a new thing. She provided a lot of information regarding what the banners look like, including some pictures. Thing just shrunk on me.
It'd be okay if I start out with a motion and then just.
Sure, yeah.
Aaron's moves that the board approves the request from Elk Rapids Youth Baseball Association to install no more than 25 by 3, 5 foot by 3 foot advertising sponsored banners at High Crate Park on the baseball field fence for the 25 baseball season at no expense to the township. And that a $50 per banner sale donation be made to Whitewater Township to help offset costs of maintenance.
The motion. Excellent.
All right. Motion
Can I ask
made.
before you vote on that, I didn't see a suggested
I wrote it.
verbiage. Oh,
Give it to you.
okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that? Amber?
Maybe any questions for me, I guess, because you guys are all new, I've been on the baseball board now for 7, 8 years. I know before that, the baseball board was here with Miracles. The program keeps growing, we went from, when I first started, to 120, 130, 150, now we're at 225 kids.
Wow.
So, it's a little league that we grow from the age of 4 all the way up to the age of 14. So it's kind of that in between before they hit high school. We do baseball and softball. We did interjoin with softball last year. They kind of asked us for help to help offset their prices, help organize, do all that stuff. So the banners, they do ultimately help keep costs down. We did not raise our prices. We are one of the lowest prices of all the sports in Elk Rapids, let alone all around for baseball. Traverse City, I think, charges $100 and some per kid. I think it's $100 for T-ball, we charge 35. I think they charge 125 for the older kids, I think they call them mites. We charge 60. That does include hats, jerseys. If kids need gloves, we have gloves, we have bats, we have helmets. If a family cannot afford to play, we pay for it. So we do have programs that, so if a family is in need, the league eats that cost. So that's why these sponsors, these banners, they are local businesses, helps show their donation to us, and it helps our players be able to play.
I have one.
I
other-
mean, I found a contract actually today from Whitewater Township with their league to actually sign. Have you guys been doing that? Contracts to use High Creek Park baseball diamonds?
So, in the years past, I've always talked to, well, it was Cheryl,
Right.
she did all that, and then it went to Andrew Butler.
Right.
And so I would contact him and say, hey, can we reserve High Prairie Park from like May, whenever the first practice is, until July something, from the hours of 4 to 8. Monday
Then
through
were you
Friday.
charged like a fee for?
We were
Yeah.
never charged. We
Okay.
were always we always took care of the fields, maintaining, so we dragged the fields, we replaced bases, we brought in, L screens. We then started donating money, so we've never been charged, we've always been in charge of
Okay,
keeping the fields.
I think it was $25 a day on that
So
contract.
you chalk them too, and
We chalk it, we provide the chalk, we don't, that's something that you guys don't do, the baseball buys the chalk.
does
And we-
Elk Rapids schools use, do you have to coordinate with any other organization? The schools, I thought, had interest in using them for their program too, but I don't know if they ever.
What do you mean?
Do
This
you-
is like through Elk Rapids, I mean, it's
Is
not.
it through the public school though?
It isn't, so none of the younger sports in Elk Rapids are actually a sports-based out program, they're all outside, I don't know if that makes sense, like, we have Herba, which isn't like sponsored by the school, but it is.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Or really private organization.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
501, it's a 501c, so it's a nonprofit organization that's not school funded. I don't know, so that way they can do soccer that way, they do baseball that way, they do basketball, volleyball. I don't know how robotics is. And they've done a few other sports, I know they're starting to get into, but they create these 501 nonprofit organizations, so they're not funded by the school. As like you were talking, high school sports.
I have one more question about. Oh. It seems a little funny that we have to bring this back every year. I mean, it's nice to talk to you, especially since we're all new. Okay, that's nice.
Talked about it,
But-
last year they talked about doing it every 3 years, but because it was a new
Yeah.
board,
Yeah,
that's why they
I would,
didn't want.
I would like the board to consider amending the motion to make this either a 3 or 4 year agreement. I'm just trying to think if there's a downside to
Oh,
that.
is there actually a written agreement or is this just a verbal, you can do it?
For the use of the banners.
For the use of the banners, I think this has always been a
They're
motion.
gonna be always in good taste, cause they're, you know, kids and public and.
I think the
like-
point
I'm not
is,
gonna go up to the store next to the casino, or any of the bars, and I don't think legally
Right,
bars can really do anything like that on
Yeah.
a school, because we have talked to Shorts Brewery before, because of the restaurant.
Mhm.
But because of the distillery part,
mhm.
they had to legally do something, and it didn't work out, so. Sure, there are certain things you cannot do.
So my point though is. I don't think legally that you can make a 3-year commitment without an agreement to approve. You
okay,
can-
because
you
we're
can
just
do it-
allowing them
you
to
can do
place
it-
banners
yeah.
on our property.
I mean, you
Right.
can do it year to year, you know,
Okay,
but if you're gonna go multi-year, you need to have the document.
okay,
So next year, I would say come back with a 3-year agreement in writing that we can approve the board and then.
I know Milton has made an agreement with us. I don't think I've submitted it this year because I hadn't filled out the form yet, but last year, Whitewater Township has a no advertisement policy. I don't know if most of you are aware that you're not supposed to do certain things, which is fine. But they made an exception for us and they created a form to fill out that we can do temporary banners to hang up during the baseball season, and I can submit that to you for you guys this year, next year, whatever, just to see how they do it. If that's something you're interested, that way I can keep coming back every year, or
Yeah.
if it's somebody new the following year, it's
Well,
it's
the
good to keep,
yeah.
so you guys know what we're doing,
Mhm.
stuff up there and.
The reason for that is that if a government entity allows your organization, your 501c3 to do it, you have to allow them.
Correct. Yep.
So there is that.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a leap of faith. It's all gonna be what we want there, but you don't know. So,
It has been brought up in discussion last year that what if she puts up naughty banners? I guess that's just good faith.
well, we
I'm
can,
hoping that I've done
we
this
can,
for
we can
years.
make you take those down.
I'm just saying, like, they brought that up, what about this? Or I was like. I've been doing this for 7 to
Just
8
trying to-
years. I'm
yeah.
just trying to help these little kids out,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so I think we've got a motion on the floor and a second by Wendy. We ready to vote?
Yes,
Take the fee off, that's nickel and dime,
Oh, yeah, there's,
that's double taxation,
Well, this is not public comment time.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
It's not.
It's-
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
sorry,
pub-
John. Yeah,
I guess so
there's no, we're just talking about having the banners on the fence, yeah.
I guess the other thing is though, I don't know if that has to come back for another discussion, but. We've never been charged a fee, so I guess if there's a fee, then,
Just, we didn't, the motion doesn't.
that's
mention
a, that's a
fee.
separate discussion.
well, my concern is though, I don't know if the league can fork over. $3,000.
Well,
I'm just trying to find out.
I think we need,
$25 a day for 60
No, I don't
days.
think we're-
I think we need to research that separately, and
Yeah,
that's,
we were
that's not,
gonna try to change stuff on, yeah.
Okay, I was
that's
like-
not part of this.
Okay.
I just thought it was interesting that I caught
Yeah.
that.
We were just trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so, motion made by Aaron, seconded by Hoaxma to approve, placement of these banners for this season. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you for your explanation, Amber.
There's no fee.
All right,
That verbiage, I overlooked it for a second, was it one in this?
all right. So the last agenda item pertains to the correspondence that we received from Vaughn Harshfield. I'm looking for the page here. Here it is. No, my whole screen has zoomed to this tiny font. So there is a email from Vaughn regarding Memorial Day parade that's taken place for the last several years. And what he was asking for is he made reference to the township newsletter. And I followed up on that and saw the last time we issued a township newsletter was last May-ish. So it's been a long time. Newsletters are not a statutory requirement. Many other townships send things out in tax bills to save on the postage costs, which, as you know, keeps increasing. So this is up for discussion. Our fire department also regularly participates in this. I did verify through Chief Morgan his plan to participate in it and coordinate as needed with the police department for safe crossing of the road. So the question to us is, you know, he was requesting to place this in a newsletter. And we don't, right now that I'm aware of, have a plan for a newsletter. Specifically to meet his timing.
I just wanted to mention in the policy and procedures that it does say that the supervisor puts out 2 newsletters a year.
I know,
It says one spring, but
right.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we need to,
We
it
need
should
to
say,
decide.
I think we only put out a newsletter if you have something to say.
Right.
If you don't have something to say, don't waste the money, you know, and I think it should be may or not shall. And we need to amend that in the PNP manual.
So, and it doesn't specify timing, and I'm not trying to weasel out of anything. I'm
yeah.
just saying, you know, do we have specific reason to assume that we will be issuing a newsletter in this time frame?
Well, I guess that goes along with the cleanup day, we having the cleanup day and organizing that, and that needs to. be-
Right.
So that's gonna be a discussion item at the end, but
Right.
so.
Right, so, I don't know that we can commit to him on this at this time. The thing I'd like to add to the conversation, I realize this doesn't work for everybody, but certainly we can make people aware on the website. We have a Facebook page that Josh has been running for a while for the fire department that has a certain amount of a following. There's also other more cost-effective options such as figuring out newspaper ads. I'm not sure if we should be incurring that cost either for a non-township activity, but you know, we know that ads can be placed in the Elk Rapids News and reach a wide group of people for not much investment. And I believe they also publish a certain amount of things for free. Things like this can be put in the newspaper. So I realize this is a change.
Right.
But, you know, so I'm just kind of throwing this out there.
Could also do
discussion.
signs as well.
Yard signs.
Well, I think anything that we did,
Extras.
anything that we, yeah, I think anything that we did would have to be, because it's a private organization. And you run into that same thing that we just talked about. You do it for them, you do it for them, you do it for them, and I realize the fire department's participating in it and has significant role probably in it, I think. And so I think it's more of a fire department sort of initiative. But I don't think the township fund should be spent on it. The board members want to volunteer.
Well, obviously, we can say that will help spread the word, you know,
Right.
but not necessarily if we don't have a newsletter. I want to also say the statutory duty of the clerk is to provide the flags for the cemeteries, so,
Really?
yes.
You have to put them in the ground.
No.
Is that to provide them?
Yes.
And then, is that something we reuse or purchase new every year?
Purchase new, they last all year.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're all learning a little here.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, Vaughn needs some specific feedback. So.
I think the things you mentioned, we're not gonna have a spring newsletter, so it's not gonna hit as.
So have we decided that for sure? There's no
Well-
spring newsletter?
It's gonna have to be a separate mail.
So, I think that we need to decide what we're gonna do on the newsletter and, You know, I don't know that right now, I'm just trying to answer Vaughn's question, you know, I'm just not sure that we're going to have a newsletter to meet his timing. I can tell you from a financial standpoint, I would really like to see us move towards enclosing these kind of informational things when we are already paying for postage, which is we pay for postage 3 times a year. 2 times for tax bills and 1 time for a tax assessment, and I have seen evidence from other townships that that is how they distribute printed information.
Right.
And because it is the most cost-effective thing to do.
Well, that is
Yeah.
true. The only time I ever look for a newsletter in this township is to make sure the date of the cleanup day. So.
Right, and you know, and I think that we can advertise our cleanup day with a yard sign in front of the town hall. And on the various other township owned properties, which we have
We
several.
can put an ad, and that was the thing we were
And
gonna
we can
talk
put
about.
ads in the.
We can put an
paper.
ad in the South Rapids News. The one thing that I do like about their classified ads anyway, there's not so many of them that you won't look at.
There's almost none.
I know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know, but that in the papers, you know, it's mostly sports, but whatever. But, you know, I think that we can get the word out, and they're gonna be calling the people that like it, where we don't hear about it.
Yeah.
But we've got our website, we've got other ways to communicate with people. We need to revive whatever that. Give me your email address list is.
Oh, I have an update on that too, because that was part of what I was doing in response to this question from Vaughn. After some large amounts of digging, Jill was able to find an Excel file that appears it was possibly used for newsletter distribution. We don't know for sure because we couldn't find like the email thread. But we did find an Excel file and the quantity of names lines up with it's probably the email distribution list, because it's right around 1,100 emails. Now, we still don't know how they sent it out, but it at least gives you hope of some place to start. And I started a conversation with our website person about a lot of websites have a button on the front page that says, click this button to be added to the email distribution. So that's another thing that we might be able to ring out and figure out to help Juan between now and when this would happen. So at this point, I personally am not comfortable committing to saying, yes, we will put this information in the newsletter. And also for the other reasons that you have stated, if we do it for this organization, we could be compelled to do it for anybody that comes and requests it.
Right.
So that, you know, that hasn't been a problem in the past, but it could become a problem.
We kind of blended a little bit. For communication discussion with this topic, but it is, I mean, it's all, you
related.
know,
But
So-
I think we need to treat ourselves the same with the junk day too. I
So
think
you-
I can't be sending out and spending
Right.
$2,000 some dollars just to tell people about junk
oh
day.
yeah,
When
right,
I can
spending
do it
about
other
up to
ways.
15,000 for it, you're spending 2,600 for, well, 2,400.
And
Just to let people know about it.
Yeah,
So I think as far as the grade thing goes, is I just basically. He might be watching the meeting, I don't know.
Yes.
he's
Oh,
on.
is he? Okay, so I mean, he's heard kind of the things we had to say, and maybe follow up with it and just say. Well, he's gonna have a chance for public comment,
Yes.
he can address it there,
Okay,
Right, so basically we can't commit to a spring newsletter.
I don't think so, I don't think we have enough to. Publish one right now.
well, and I think, yeah, it's just,
Okay.
I think the whole community needs to appreciate how hard and how fast people are trying to get a handle on stuff around here. And yeah, I'm not gonna go through all that thing to publish that and spend that money if there's not huge news flashes going on
You're
here.
gonna be in your meet on phones.
Yeah. All right, any further comments? I can follow up and call one, we'll do that. Okay, we have no tabled items. Are there any further board comments or discussion items?
So I did want to talk about cleanup day. I know that typically, from my understanding, the treasurer, I think, kind of the former treasurer had started that thing, right, and
Yeah.
did a good job with it, and it was very popular in this community.
Yes.
And I think many people would hate to see that go away, and as Linda even reminded me too, that it's a good thing to. I think they were even designed to help eliminate blight.
Yes.
So I think it is a benefit to our township, and I don't think that I've heard anybody, especially in the treasurer or the clerk's office, has the time to maybe take this on. Unless I'm wrong.
I asked Jill and she respectfully declined and said she was concerned about current activities of getting her house in order.
Well, I would be willing to kind of research what they've done in the past, call vendors. I saw just last week in the Elk Rapids News that Clearwater just approved theirs not to exceed 26,000, or I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
township it was. So, you know, other communities are starting to do this now. They're calling this spring cleanup. For where we do it, we have to wait till school's out. So ours will just be called a cleanup day. It'll be in June. Like it has been in the past, but I can kind of research that and then just look for volunteers, board members or whatever to help man the table, and I guess whoever you get, they have their own workers that help unload things, right?
Yes, that's what I investigated. I checked what Ardella submitted to the board last year and it was right around $12,000. Bay Area disposal done at the school. They supply the labor.
So I can call them, I can call GFL and whatever the other, and then it's, I think what it's gonna be is, it depends on, they all have different requirements, or they have, will accept this kind of paint, this or whatever. And so we can do something that can direct people with one of those QR code things to go and show what we accept and what we don't. But and then as far as communicating it, we'll get creative. This is the kind of thing where I think maybe it would work to do a postcard and be cheaper than just a full mailer. And then just be brief, this is the date, whatever, here's the QR code to see what we accept. And
I think if you keep it on the same Saturday, first Saturday of June, people will just show up.
Probably.
Honestly,
I hope they don't
Yeah.
just come through the job.
if you didn't have it that day, I think people.
Hey, people would still,
show
it's
up.
always that
There's
day.
like-
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that we should do it, and I don't think anybody, you know. and
Well,
it's-
I like the postcard idea.
Yeah, I think we could, you know, talk to the printer people that we use and just see what would it cost to send a postcard. You know, how many we actually.
You have to send a little one in order to save money.
Yeah,
You
but-
can't send a big one.
No, we would just do the little one, and it would just reference them to our website to say what we're accepting, but the important thing is to get the date out, right?
Last year, it was the second Saturday. It's June the 8th. You know.
My neighbors used it, and I've never done it, but. I'll work it, I don't have a problem.
I did it once or twice. Some people do it every year. Yeah, she's right. So you can research that and we can add that to one of our special meeting discussions as we're going through the budget, because we did budget for that. You put it in the
I
budget.
think I did.
I think you did. Okay. Any further comments?
I have one.
Yeah.
I'll be on for that subject. Okay, so I just want to draw attention to in my board report there, trustee report. I mentioned in there about that passenger rail study that is underway. I want to make sure that gets some acknowledgement that. So there was a preliminary study that was done and it identified the feasibility of passenger rail going from Ann Arbor to Traverse City. That was a preliminary study, and in part of that, there was reference to using the rail line behind the casino and extending, as we mentioned, through Old Williamsburg. So there is another study that is a bigger and more substantial project that is ongoing now that is being headed by the Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities in Traverse City. And there was a ticker article about this here just a few weeks ago. And so I reached out to them and they said that we should be aware of the future efforts that there'll be for public engagement on that work. And so it's hard to know whether that impacts us or not, but the preliminary study did and mentioned us. So
Interesting.
It
Is
is.
the end of the line? I thought it was gonna go to the task.
Well, there's a couple of things in there, but one is behind the casino. There is a rail line, and it's the same one that crosses Old 72.
And in the summer, they get a train. Every day.
Yeah, or, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios, and we shouldn't get too, hyped up about it, but it seems like we should be aware of this going on, and it is, I mean, I think it's a $1.2 million study, if I'm not mistaken, that's looking at ridership and routes and all kinds of stuff.
I've worked with Roberts for 15 years, and this has been like that for 15 years, so.
Yeah.
So it's,
I don't know that they've had $1.2 million to study something before, but
is that federal money? Well, we'll see.
Okay, moving on to announcements. Regular township board meeting for April. It appears as though that's gonna be Monday, April 7th. Prior to that, budget public hearing, a week from today, March 17th, at 6:30 PM, same as the April meeting, 6:30 PM. And then we agreed on budget work sessions on March 24th at 10 AM and March 31st at 10 AM.
The April 7 meeting is at 6:30.
Yes. Okay. It's now time for public comment. Do we have anybody in the hall that would like to make a public comment? Come on forward here, John.
Hello, John Nolan, 9933 Miami Beach Road. First, I'd like to commend the board for presenting the audit report. In all the years I lived here, I've never seen one. I had requested, and it was a lot of times difficult to get it, even on my request from the prior administration. So I thought the publishing and sharing that was very helpful. I do disagree with Joe's discussion about disposal of assets should not be carried forward in depreciation. First of all, our association, Miami Beach Road, funded totally the sewer system, and the township was incurred no expense out of pocket incurred. So that cost was either administrative prior to the installation of the system, but it in no way had any assets owned on the system. It was actually started out as a special assessment with the county. They had it for 20 years. After it was fully assessed, was paid back. County transferred it to the township. 1 year, township did not want it. They approached us to take over the ownership. And the transfer was given back to our road association. So I just think that carrying that depreciation is totally misrepresents the assets and the way the perception of the prior administration on lack of internal controls, segregation of duties. It would not surprise me that there is more assets misstated that are being carried forward on the financial statements than just our 29,000. So I also like to make a comment. Joe's opinion of the township's financials having the qualifier of present fairly, to me is a very weak representation of how our financials are stated. And I would like to hope that this group would not just put this report on the shelf and that there'd be some action plans taken forward and possibly somebody even take on internal controls, because internal controls is a very important responsibility for accuracy of the financials. So That's all I had to share.
Thank you.
The spelling of your last name, et cetera. I didn't quite catch that.
Is there anybody else in the town hall that wants to make a public comment? Okay, anybody on Zoom?
Yes,
I'm sorry, did somebody raise their hand?
Oh, I probably just have a brief meeting.
Okay. Hang on just a second. All right, Denise,
Denise Feldman.
Update protocol.
you can do that when you're done.
Just as everyone knows that not everyone in the township has internet or access to the township website online. And therefore, the community newsletter was meant to distribute information to everyone in the township. I have the internet. I like looking at the newspaper, the newsletter. It always had a variety of topics. It doesn't have to, I don't know, be earth shattering, but like before cleanup day, if you go and if you just happen to mention that pick up the trash in the ditches in front of your yard and make the community look nicer and take that to cleanup day, but that is something that can be passed on in a newsletter. And timing it with the twice a year, it can always be put in and looked at or not, but it's nice to have the information available to everyone, not just fortunate few who got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, anybody else in the town hall? Okay, how about on Zoom?
we have Connie Highmore with her hand up.
Okay, Connie, go ahead.
Hi, Connie Highmore, Hymore. I just take notes during the board meetings so that I can, if something comes to my mind, but the portable restrooms, I know I made a comment on it last month. It's sad that we're gonna lose those, but now that you're decided to sell them, there's other places that might be interested in buying them, like event rental businesses or equipment rental places. I just Googled a couple while we were online here, and I saw several of them in Traverse City that rent restrooms out during big events. So I don't know, might be a option for it. Instead of taking a $7,000 loss, maybe we could sell it and get the money back. Also on the High Prairie Park bleachers, I'm wondering if some business might like some community involvement with the kids and their ball teams. Maybe they'd like a plaque on the bleachers with their name on it if they helped out with those bleachers. Just an idea. I know the boat wash is in the second part of the boat ramp project, but I think that's a real big one to focus on to protect our beautiful lakes up there. And I'm hoping that we could have a project manager on all of these projects, someone from the board or the PC to oversee these projects so we don't go over budget like we did on the first part of the boat ramp. When I was listening about Vaughn's request about the parade, what if we put together a community page on the website where announcements or advertisements could go so that those kind of things could be advertised. The cleanup day could be on the website, and the more people know about a community page, the better. They may start looking at it more often and rely on that. I heard Linda at the beginning of the meeting talk about someone coming for the Zoom camera and stuff. Just so you know, the camera's flickering. I don't know if it's for you, Vaughn, but it's flickering, and a couple of the microphones you can hear really good. Linda and Randy, you can hear you guys really good. The podium was real muffled. And Tim and Wendy was real muffled, and I don't know if it's because their mics are further back than the two of you on the other side. I can't see all that from Zoom. But, so I don't know what's going on with the mics, but it was hard to hear those two people. But anyway, so good meeting. Take care. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That's it.
Yeah, we'll light it up even.
Okay.
Say one quick.
Yes.
Hi, Deb Graber. I just heard this on the news, just this week. Michigan State University does have a portable boat washing station. And if you call them, they'll actually come out and do your boat washing for you. It's portable, they move it from place to place. If anybody, but you gotta call them and just sign up what date you are looking for. Another thing, when I was running for office, I think there's like something on Vistaprint where you can preview a postcard and they'll do all the mailing and do everything. You just type it in what you want it to say and you can do it all automated. You wouldn't even have to go to a printing company per se, but anyway, thank you.
Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Oh,
differentiate.
Melnick,
All right, sorry,
Okay.
Slopsima, motion to adjourn.
Aaron, second.
Melnick,
I
second.
heard two.
Oh, did you?
Melnick, you
Okay.
were second.
Okay. Just pick one.
Made motion.
Pick one.
We all second.
Melnick second.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
Thank you.
That's gonna.
all right, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.